VeYadaata Moscow was given by the fifth Chabad Rebbe in 1897 in Moscow. Asking the question, did creation reveal God or creation hid God? So VeYadaata Hayom. You will know today, then you will turn into your heart. Ki Havaya Hu Elokim. So Havaya is how we put the letters of Yud Ke Vav Ke together, so referring to the infinite type of God. Hu Elokim. Elokim is a physical God, and it's in the plural. V'hine psukim shkoidem zeh medavrim me'inyin yitzias Mitzrayim v'knisas haaretz. So before we get to this part of the psukim at the end of Devarim, so before then they have the psukim before them are talking about Yitzias Mitzrayim v'knisas haaretz, and then it says VeYadaata Hayom. So we have to understand what's the shayach of Yitzias Mitzrayim and entering into the land to VeYadaata, because knowing God seemingly is connected to coming out of Egypt and going into the land of Israel. V'yesh lahavin. First, we need to understand what it says. Ki havaya hu Elokim. What do these words mean? Havaya hu Elokim. That Yud Ke Vav Ke is Elokim. V'yadua ma shekasav al zeh b'zohar. Well, it's known what is written in the Zohar. The havaya of Elokim kul echad. It's all one. L'chayre ein ze muvan. How's that? It's not understood. Eichem kul echad. How could it be they're all one? The hina yadua, the havaya hu makor ha-giloy. So that havaya is the source of the revelation. Vahu bechinas minas harachamim. And havaya is the rachamim. V'hayinu shehu bechinas giloy bechinas chesed. V'rachamim bli shum hagbala klal. That this is the level, Yud Ke Vav Ke is the level of revelation in the level of chesed and rachamim without any hagbala. No limitations whatsoever. To kol hagbala hu mishom elokim kamosh. So as we will explain, so we have the Yud Ke Vav Ke is believable, it has no limitations. So the Yud Ke Vav Ke is like the infinite appellation for God, and then Elokim is everything that has gavul, everything that's limited. So the limited, how God comes into limitations, will be through Elokim. Aval. She Havaya, Shem Havaya, who Giloy bebechinas beli gavul klal. So the name of Yud Ke Vav Ke, it's the revelation of God without any limitations whatsoever. And the Shem Elokim is in the bechinas of midas hadin. So you have din, but Tzimzum, and you have restriction to la tzemtzem, but lahalim esa giloy haor, and we're going to restrict and we're going to hide the revelation of the light. Mizeh hariboy ha'esalkos, and from this, the hiding of the light, then you come out with a multiplication of the divisions, because when you have beli gavol, when you have infinity, so then therefore there can't be any divisions in infinity. Therefore, all part of infinity. So therefore, I'm not different to you. And so from our own guf, at your left hand has a division to your right hand, but because it's connected to you, it has less of a division than somebody completely different. So therefore, the more hester and the more gavol there is, the more limitations there are. So therefore, the more divisions there are. L'chein b'shem Elokim ketiv lashon rabim. So with the name of Elokim, why is the name of Elokim in plural? It's like multiple gods. Ketiv lashon rabim, k'moshkasav Elokim kedushim lioshat tzimtzem va'alem ba beriboy his halkus. That because the Elokim is about bal gavol and creating divisions, so therefore you will come to this tzimtzum. This restriction creates divisions, and therefore Yud Ke Vav Ke is in the singular and Elokim is in the plural, because Yud Ke Vav Ke is without gavol, without limitations, and Elokim has limitations. So therefore his halkus, and therefore plurality comes out of the tzimtzum and the dividing up. Yalosh and Kabbalah, Shem Havaya is the makor of the light, the Shem Elokim makor hakelim. So that you have light and kelim, and Yud Ke Vav Ke is the source of the light, and the Shem Elokim is the source of the kelim. So the light is unbound and unlimited, and because of that, you can't do anything with it. So you need the kelim in order to harness the light, so you can do things with the light. So if you have staring at the sun, so you have all the ore, and then it's bad for the eyes. And then if you have the sunglasses can become the kelim in order for you to use the light. Or you could have a language, and in that language, it's just how do I learn the language? How do I learn Japanese? How would I learn French? But with a application like Duolingo, so you have the kelim in order to restrict the language into a way that I'm able to actually use it and learn it and understand it. But without the kelim of the gvul and the restriction in order that I can understand it, so then without that, so therefore the whole of the or I don't really have access to it because it's too much. So v'ha'or hu pashut. So the or is just simple, without any divisions at all and without any restrictions. Because or, it is me'ein ha'ma'or. So you have the ma'or would be, let's say, the sun, and the or would be the light coming out of the sun. So the light, one of the reasons, and you'll see this in much religious iconography, is that there's light and religion and God go together. So many pictures of Jesus will have light coming out of him. He has a halo of light. In some pictures you'll have in the movies, the light coming out will be the idea of religion. One of the things with light is that there's no real difference between the light in the sun and the sun itself. I mean, the sun is kind of made up of light, and then for the light coming out of the sun, it is the same as the sun, as the light that's in the sun itself. So that the or is like, so the light is like the creator of the light, the sun. So where the light is coming from, the generating of the light. So therefore that the light coming out of Ein Sof, so the or Ein Sof is like Ein Sof. As the way that is communicated out of Ein Sof is similar and can be traced back to the Ein Sof. Because Shem Ma'or hu Pashut B'Tachlis. Pashut is just like the Ma'or, that the creator of the light is completely simple, without any gavul be'etzem, and it has no restrictions whatsoever. Just like the revelation and the light that comes from it, it is like the mo'or, it is like the creator itself. It doesn't have any division and doesn't have any restriction. So the or and the ma'or have no division and no restriction. However, the name of Elokim, that is the source of the kalim. And in the kalim, you mitzamsem ala ma'or, so that you restrict and then you hide the light, and that you restrict the light and in it in the bechinas of its chalkus, Chachma v'chesed. So therefore, in the kalim, you can start to now make divisions, and in these divisions, you can have divisions for like Chachma and Chesed. So again, Chachma would be the first three in the seichel, and then the Chesed would be the emotions or the actions. So the only way that you can have things like God is a rachamim and God is chesed is only through the kalim, because without the kalim, you just have the unrestricted, and in the unrestricted, so there's no division. There's no such thing as chesed, because it's with everything else. You just infinity. There's no chesed in infinity. It's everything. Like the kalim, the Ein Sof, rehu magalim esor. So that the kalim of Ein Sof, of the Esser Spheros, the kalim of the Esser Spheros are revealing the light that is dressed within them. So that these kalim are actually a revelation, which we'll see in the example of kamo hamoach, that the brain and the head is megala, the light of the seichel that is dressed in it, of the lahaskil. So that you have the koyach of haskala, the ability to understand things and express things. So that's in the brain. So the brain is the kli of the body that is able to reveal that part of the neshama of seichel. So that the neshama really is in its infinity. But when it's going into the moach and reveals itself in seichel, so therefore you get a revelation of the seichel, of the neshama, but that comes through the kalim of the brain. Ayin megala esaor. So therefore the eye reveals the light that's fitting of the ruchnius. So the eyesight of the neshama, the neshama sees everything. But then when the kli of the eye allows it to see things through retinas and whatever the physical eyeball sees, so then that gets a megala of the koyach hariyah, of what seeing is of the neshama. But it's really a restriction of the ability to see of the neshama's viewing. And that the seeing is really a ruchnius activity, because it's not physicality, the sight itself. You might be looking at physical objects, but the sight itself would be ruchni. V'halev magala es amidos. So the heart would be revealing the midos. So the emotions that somebody has, so that gets a revelation through the heart. So therefore above we have the chachma is like the moyach, and the chesed is the right hand. Shehem megalem esa oiros, because the midos of Hashem are megala, they're revealing the lights, and the or is coming down, so that as it comes into the kelim, so therefore we have a revelation of the or. Tezehu kol inyan hakelim shemegalem esa or, because of the kelim, what they do is that they reveal the or, and the or takes effect through them, so that the or can't really work without the eyeball. So the eyeball is the kli to allow eyesight to work, as it's known, and as we've said above in the nefesh. And he that both of them are emes, that they megale so or, and also ma'alim and master malo or. So therefore the kelim, what are the kelim? The kelim does two things. The kelim, it reveals the light, and the kelim also hide and cover up the light. Because what is megale so or, that's the or before it comes into the worlds. So that the light that we are megale in the kelim, that light is the light before it is suitable for the worlds, because the kelim of the Eser Sfiros of Atzilus, they give light and they reveal the light of the world of Atzilus, and through the Parsa Hamasveses and through the curtains that make the block, being Atzilus Lebrius, every world has a curtain or has a blocking to it, so that Hooray Hu Megalemis, or that allows it to reveal the or in the world of the Bria, and from Bria to Yetzirah. So that each world between it has a curtain. This curtain allows the higher lights that are above to come into that lower world. So that, let's say you have the higher levels of Atzilus as is coming into Bria. If you have that light of Atzilus in Bria, it's not going to work there. So therefore you need to have a Tzimzum of that light of Atzilus in order to be shaykh into the world of Bria. So just like if you have the science of a NASA worker versus someone who's 10 years old and is just trying to work out some stuff in physics. So that you have that light. He has to bring it down. He needs kelim in order to hide what he knows and bring it out in a new way. Otherwise, the child will have no idea whatsoever about the physics that the NASA astronaut is explaining him. So between the worlds, you have to have a kli and a blocker. Yeah, you have to block and filter out the higher light in order to make it palatable to the world below it. But this is not a level of a revelation of the or as it is. So as you reveal the light in the world below it, you're not revealing the light as it is in its infinity. Shirei is part of the Baal, as we've explained above, that the light is just like the light giver. And that's Poshet, V'tachlis, and it has no restrictions whatsoever. And if so, then the light by itself is not suitable for the world. So if it's not suitable for the world, as it comes into the world, so therefore it can't be the same level of light. Because the whole of the world has to be, that is the Bechinas of Yeshu Gevul. So therefore, since the world has to be in a state of yeshness, a state of creation, a state of being, so therefore an infinite light, if it comes in here, will bottle the yeshness. The yeshness will be separate. I am different to you. And I only feel that because I'm not in touch with the infinity that's permeating the world. And if I had no gavul, if I had no borders between me, then I would just feel like I am the same as everybody else. But being a yesh and being separate, therefore this is the world in which we are. A rock is not a tree, and I am not a tree. So everything is separate. So therefore the light is not the same erech of light. It's not the suitable light that's coming in. I have a light that's suitable for me, so that's coming in through kelim. The gamma oilam and atzilus, that is the heicholos of atzilus, the chambers of atzilus. That's in the bechinas of yesh and gavol, as is written in Sefer Beinoni in the Gerus Kodesh, Divrei Maskal Ihu Ihu Chad. So that's in the Tanya C there. The Kol Shekain. Oilam Habriya, Tzir V'Yasiya, Shehem Bechinus Gavul. So if the world of Atzilus is in the level of Gavul already, so therefore the light that's going into the world of Atzilus, again, Atzilus has to be Gavul because we have a thing called Chochmah there. We have, in the world of Atzilus, you have God and his Midos are one. So since God is broken down into his Midos, therefore we have a revelation of Midos, and that is that's in separate to God. Even with the one, you can see the Chesed, you can see the Chochmah, or it's split out from there. So therefore that's not the pure infinity of the light that goes into it. So if Atzilus is in a level of Gavul and boundaries, so Kol Shekain, all the other worlds. And Gavul, Ubeli Gavul, Hem Be'ein Erech Klal. So that you have restriction, and without restriction, then they are not suitable to each other whatsoever. Hooray, Shaha'or Be'etzem Einu Be'erech Ha'olama. So therefore you see that the essential light is not at all suitable for any of the worlds. And if so, it's to understand that just like the Kalim reveal the Or in the worlds, it is not so the light that's being revealed through the Kalim is not the Etzema Or. It's only Bechinas Ha'ara, Chitzoni. It's a level of a ray, an outside ray that's coming from it. But the Etzema Or, hu b'bechinas elam b'hem. But that so again we're explaining here that really that the kelim are doing two things. It's revealing the or and it's hiding the or. So what's that's revealed? Because you can't see anything without the light. But that light is not the etzem of the light. The etzem of the light, if it came in here, that really needs to be hidden by hiding the light. So that etzem of the light is being hidden. However, the chitzoni of the light, that's what's coming through. That's what the kelim allow you to interact with, is that the chitzoni of the light. But from the etzem or, that's in helam bahem. So that's being hidden inside the kelim. Shehem alim alav, because the kelim are hiding on the etzem of the light. And through this, that it is Malama etzema or, that's hiding the etzem of the or. Therefore, only through hiding it are you able to reveal the chitzoni of the or that will give light and will work in the worlds. And therefore, it's understood that both of them are true. That they hide the etzem of the or and they reveal the chitzoni of the or. The ha tali, because it's one and the other. That through hiding the etzem, therefore you're able to reveal the chitzoni. So therefore, how can you look at the sun with sunglasses that hide the sun? Therefore, you can look at the sun. So you get the revelation of the sun only through hiding the sun. And the proof for this is that the vessels do not reveal the etzem of the or from letters of speech that reveal the seichel. That is, doesn't reveal only the chitzoni of the seichel and not the panimi of the seichel. So if you have an idea, there's something on in your mind and you want to speak it out. So as you're speaking it out, the kelim, in order to explain your idea, are the letters in which you're using in your words. And those words are trying to explain the idea in your brain. However, the full todkef, the entire idea in your brain, doesn't come out. That what it does is that the letters are turning your infinite ideas into Hagbala, into restricted areas which are able to then give over the idea to other people. Just like we see in Sanhedrin, when they were Noisev and Noitin, and they were the Sanhedrin was deliberating on the din all the night because they would forget their svaras, so that they wouldn't take a break in the night. And even though they were two Seifri had Dayanim, so even though they were two court officers who were writing down what everybody was saying, the Mazakin and the Machayevim, so that the plaintiff and the defendant, everything's written down. So Rashi says, at the notes of the lave, you can't write down, men can't write that down. So that the notes of the heart, or how you're feeling in that point in time, even though everything which you've said is written down, and then the next day you can just read what was said yesterday, and then you should be able to come back to that point. But once you're in a certain idea, when you're in a certain clarity, you're in a certain way of learning, so there the words aren't going to help you. They say about the Chazon Ish that he would learn all night, and then in the morning he would review his notes, and he couldn't understand what he wrote the previous night, because when he'd finished off his learning the previous night, he'd been learning for 10-15 hours straight. So therefore he's in the sugya of a way that now when he's woken up the next day, he's completely just not there. So he can't even understand his own notes, because there's a difference between him waking up in the morning, the difference between him learning 15 hours straight and then writing. So where you are in the sugya, you can't. The fact that you're just reading the words isn't going to put you to the same place as you are without. So therefore, the words are the kelim, but they don't reveal the etzem. They're only revealing the outside. So what you say, you have a thought, though, you have a passion, you have a feeling, and you say words. Those words are just the outside kelim that are not revealing your etzem, how you're feeling, and therefore, when you read them back, you're not going to get back to where you were, because you're just getting the outside or and not the panimi of the or. So that their kavana, the emes and the internal emes of their kavana is they are not able to reveal in the letters as you write down your words, only the chitzoni levad. But Kamokain, Yuvan also understand this with kelim that are above, that they don't reveal, they only reveal the outside, and the panimius and the atzmos, or it's hidden in them. And also it'll understand from the kachas of the nefesh that are in the limbs of the body. Just like the kayach of the seichel in the b'moyach shebarosh lahaskil. So you have the seichel that's in the brain, in the head, to understand, and the kayach of the to see is in the eye, to see. So there's the kayach of seichel in the nefesh before it is melavish b'moach. So your nefesh has an ability to see that's far beyond what the eye can see, and your nefesh has an ability to maskil, to understand things much greater than your brain is able to understand. So, right, the koyach of the seichel and the nefesh before it goes into the moach, and the ability of your nefesh to see before it is in the eye, and there, before they're in the eye or the moach, they're in a place that's much higher than when it's in the levisha, in the limbs. And once it comes into the body, it was a much higher place, and now you can only see things. A wall can block you seeing things, whereas your neshama or bad light can stop you seeing things. Whereas your neshama has his ability to see is much higher than that. But the koyach of the riyah, the ability of the nefesh to see, does not take act as lerot davar. It doesn't see something else. To do an action like it can see now, as it's able to do now. And also, it's the power of the seichel. It doesn't work like it did before it went in. So the way it works by itself, and then it works after it's in the levisha, even though it's much higher, it works completely different once you're in the guf. So it's higher before it goes in the guf, and then it has a levisha in the guf. It's a much lower, but the ability to affect something else is completely different. Because once it's in its koyach, it can affect other people. But when it's in the levisha, in the guf, even though now it's much lower, it can now affect others. This is how it goes. So that the nefesh is similar in the mashal to the etzim of the or, that is not suitable to have haskala, like those that it has seichel after it goes into the seichel gashmius b'chlal v'nisnas b'gashmius. So once that the nefesh enters into the guf, and now it's in a physical existence, so therefore the seichel is now physical seichel, and as it does that, it's a completely different revelation of the seichel of the nefesh. Ki'im lehaskil skalas ruchni. So it's only able to understand ruchni's ideas, like the hasaga of Gan Eden and these type of things. So therefore, this is again one of the ideas that for Gan Eden, it's only for the neshama. So then that it could be, if you go in as a physical being to Gan Eden, it's not going to help you at all, because if the hasagas of ruchnius, and you really can't understand those things of Gan Eden while you're in your guf, because your guf is having seichels of gashmius. So therefore, the neshama, it doesn't have the seichel of gashmius, it's the seichel of ruchnius. Therefore, it goes down. Therefore, it's shayach for the neshama to be in Gan Eden. It sees it sees ruchni things while it's in the nefesh. After then the neshama goes into the guf, as it goes to the hitlavosh, it goes into the limbs of the guf. So therefore, it gets mit'alaha or ha'atzmi. It gets mitalem, the or, the etzem essence of the neshama is hidden, and is revealed only the outside light that is revealed, and in something that's against it. Therefore, only once I'm in the guf, and the neshama is in the guf, and therefore I can affect other people. Zeu klal gadol is a big law. Shekol giloi, every revelation of the etzem, of the essence, it is hidden compared to the next person. So as you're communicating, that the more that you reveal yourself, therefore you hide yourself to somebody else. If you tell somebody all your thoughts, they'll just get lost. They won't understand what you're saying. You need to have hagabala, you need to have kalim, in order to mitzamtzem yourself, in order that the other person can understand you. So if you have thoughts about someone, or thoughts that you want to explain to somebody, you have to bring it down into words in a way that they will understand. If you just give them everything, so therefore they have nothing, the other person. The ha'elem, and when you hide the essence of yourself, that's a revelation according to the next person. So again, you have to act like a child around the child, because if you give that child who you are, so therefore he won't understand anything. And as you hide more of yourself and come down onto his level, so therefore you'll reveal yourself more. And with all this, we'll understand above in the Kalim of Atzilus that they are hiding on the etzem of Hashem, and they're revealing only the external. And Davka, it's specifically that when you hide the Pinimi or and the Atzmi or, only then can you actually reveal the outside or, to do actions, as we've spoken about in the Mashal of the Nefesh. And therefore, it's called the Shem Elokim. And that's the Bechina of Midas Adin and the Tzimzum, and the restriction in order to restrict and to hide the or. So the Shem Elokim is the Kli. So you have the Or, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then the Kli is the Shem Elokim, and therefore the Yud Kei Vav Kei enters into the Kli, and the Kli does two things. It hides the Or, it hides the Panimi of the Or, and it reveals the external of the Or. Because without the Midas and without the Kli of Elokim, you wouldn't have any access to the Or whatsoever. So it hides the Panimi of the Or, and it reveals the external of the Or. And all the hiddenness in the worlds, that's all the worlds from Atzilus down to Asiya, and they are the curtains that cover and separate between every world and in the world itself. Just like the parsha from Atzilus, the curtain from Atzilus that there's between the Moich and Lemida. So although we have a curtain and a Havdalah and a separation between Atzilus and Bria, in Atzilus itself, you have curtains and Havdalahs between different areas of Atzilus. And the Pursa Mafseket bein Atzilus le Bria, we have that curtain between the worlds, and the Olam Bria, then it also has its own levels of divisions inside, and also between Bria to Yetzirah and Shia Siyas, between all the worlds, and every world itself, and everything is from the Shem. So all these divisions, that's coming from the Kli of Elokim, which is hiding and dividing. And all the revelations in the world has become of Havaya, so that the Elokim is master, and the revelations of the Panimi has to be coming from Yud Kei Vav Kei. So the Yud Kei Vav Kei comes into the world and reveals, but the Shem Elokim has to be the Kli, has to be the vessel, the Levisha, that gives the revelation of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. But the Iker revelation, every world, is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now we have two names, Havaya and Elokim, and they are opposite Zemizeh. That's the source. The Yud Kei Vav Kei is the source of revelation, and Elokim is the source of the Hester, and they are not one. So since they're not one, they're absolutely opposite to each other. How can we have the Inyan, the Mibasri Achze Elokim? So the Inyan, we can understand it from the idea, which it says, from my flesh I will see God. So in Tehillim, it says that David would look at his flesh and he will see God. As in the brackets, the Kaziv Naase Adam B'Tzalmenu K'dmosenu, that man is made in the Tzelem and the Demos Lamala, and therefore we can see through the mashal. The mashal is the nimshal, and therefore by seeing the physical world, we'll understand more about God. And therefore, how can we see? Now we've explained Yud Kei Vav Kei and Elokim, and we're saying that they are completely separate entities. So therefore, how can we say that Kol Echad? That's what the Zohar says. How can we say that they're kul echad? It seems to be a problem, and the answer we're going to find through the mashal of looking at life. So dihine, b'kochas nefesh, in the powers of the soul, yesh gamkein the koach giloi. There's also have, because again everything in the physical world is going to be a reflection of the divine. So therefore, in your nefesh, you're also going to have the revelation and of the restrictions and hiding. And just like the power of the seichel to be able to understand things, so it comes down through the koich of the ability to understand. That's in the nefesh, and that is the ability to hilu al kol mine giloi seichlius. So hiloi is this Greek term which talks about potential koach. The Ramban, at the beginning of the Bereshis, the part of his explanation is that everything is made with this potential koach. So you have this potential koach on all types of revelation of seichel, and that kol nimshach koach maskal. Everything's coming out from the power of the maskal as known. And rayesh bo koach hakli, you have the power of revelation, and that is to reveal all the reveals of the seichel and the chochmas in anything that is something that is mushkal, that is understood, or something that could be understood. V'yeshbol gamkein, the koach of hakbola, that you restrict it. Lahagbil kol davar seichel, that you need to be able to magdil in order to hagdari, that you have. So you have the revelation is the expansion, but then you have the hagbola, the restriction. Now, any idea which you take, and this is a big problem that people have when they first start to learn Gemara, is that they'll read something in the Gemara and then just apply it everywhere. And part of the sugya and part of the learning process is understanding that everything has a limitation, everything has a place for it and a place where it's not. So, for example, driving will be an Isser D'Oraisa yard. That there's a Mises based in, but if someone has B'chulak Nefesh, so then you have to drive the car, and that there is nothing that is always Aser, there's nothing that is always Mutter, and that the context is key for everything. So every idea has Hakabalas, every idea has limits and has limitations, and if every idea you take is just extreme, so therefore nothing will make sense, and you'll just corrupt all the ideas which you have. So every idea has its limits. So you have the ways of revelation of the idea, which expands the idea, and you can apply the idea to different places. Again, a lot of the maklokusim say can you open up a can of Coke on Shabbos? So no one's mechadishin. There's a maklokus on that, but no one's making up new laws. What they're doing is that they're comparing it to laws which have already were in the Gemara we've had for hundreds or thousands of years, and then we're saying this is like that or that isn't like that. So you have, for example, maklokus Rabbi Yoshev and Rav Auerbach is it like an orange? In an orange, you can pop open the orange and eat the fruit that's inside. So is it kind of Coke like an orange? It's not like an orange. So there you have the hishbastes, that you're expanding the ideas of an orange and you're limiting the ideas of an orange. And it is known that every seichel and svara has to have a gavul of the way that it expands. To add po, tavi, sulo, it only comes until here. Again, a big issue with a modern society is this idea just have no limits, and you can never go too far. But when that happens, so therefore you lose all the seichel, therefore nothing makes sense anymore. If you expand it too much, then it will go and it will be a kulton is crooked, so that the idea, when you take it too far, you've destroyed the idea, you've crooked the idea. So you might be able to take a good idea, and then by taking it too far, you will then break the idea, and you will corrupt the idea, and you will make it treif. Velotia emitis, therefore you lose the emes, because that idea that started off as emes, when you took it too far, therefore it's not emes anymore. When you join together many svaras, there's a svara that's noite lahatir, so you can. It says, so one svara says that it's mutter, and another svara says that it's aser. When you don't have the svara that will be able to mugbelas and to restrict it, you won't come to the gemar psak kach v'kach. You're never going to come to that this is the psak, because if you have something that, well, you can say that it's mutter, you can say that it's aser, so therefore the heter will go forever, the iser will go forever, and therefore you'll never be able to come to a hagpala to say no, that the heter only went this far, the iser only went that far, and therefore the psak is a heter, the psak is an aser. Okay, you will come up that the shemaita liba the halacha, that when you learn the sugya, that you will come according to emes, according to halacha. So you'll never come to this efshar ki im kasher yesvaras mugvelas. You'll only reach that level of coming out according to halacha or according to emes if you're able to restrict your ideas. Then you will see more the koyach of the svara, this one on that one. So as you restrict and you see how far the heter goes, you go see how far the isser goes, the hakabola of the heter, the hakabola of the isser, then you will be able to put them together. V'al then you will come to the truth of the matter, and you'll be able to give the psak this. And also with the mashpia and the makabel. So here we have a svara of two people, that one again is the mashpia, is trying to give over to the other, and then the makabel is trying to receive. Again, there is no makabel if you're not trying to receive, and if you're just there and you're not trying to receive, so there is no makabel. Again, we're going to build into marshals and allegories, and obviously God will be the mashpia and you are the makabel. The hechra has to be that the mashpia yitzamtzem. The mashpia is going to have to restrict the alim, the egbol, sechlo. And he'll have to hide, alam, to hide, and to give a hagbola and give a limitation of his seichel in order that it will be received to the makabel. So the makabel won't be able to receive anything if the mashpia, the person that is teaching him or is giving to him, just gives him everything. So, for example, if something as simple as a rich man giving a poor man money, if he just shoots at him millions of pennies or millions of dollar bills, he won't be able to get it. But if he gives him in his hand, 20, and then another 20, as he magabills the koyach, as he restricts it, then the other person's able to receive. If you have, like in those game shows where the guy's in this sphere and that the dollar bills are flying everywhere, and he's got 30 seconds to pick it all up, and he's frantically, because he's not, since it's not Tzimzum and the bills are going everywhere, he's not able to receive what's there for him. Because if Yigalelo, that if he reveals to him, that is the mashpia, or the expert, reveals to him the etzem sechlo, everything which he knows, like it is by him, they were not able to receive, and they need to hide. So they say about Einstein, again, these people who are brilliant, they're seen as outside of society, that they have strange activities, and a lot of people they don't understand. Again, they have by Rebbe Meir. The reason halacha isn't like Rebbe Meir is because people don't understand him, because he's so brilliant. People don't understand him. So when you are that brilliant, if you just give everyone the way that you see it, so therefore no one will understand you. And you need to hide the etzem of the seichel. You need to hide the seichel itself. And you only reveal to the person you're trying to reveal to according to his ability to receive. And also you need to give hagbala on your seichel so that it doesn't extend too much, in order that you are able, the makabel is able to receive, because if you go on forever, so therefore the makabel is not able to receive anything. Has gone too far. And therefore, when you are giving too much, therefore it's not according to the kli of the makabel. So usually what happens is that the person will just shut down. So if you go, say, someone who's not good at maths, and they just start doing trigonometry and cosines, they have no idea what he's talking about, they'll just shut down, because the seichel that's being given over is not according to his, it's not lefi erko, it's not according to his own abilities. And therefore, it's too much. As he's getting too much, so therefore you just shut down, and then you get nothing. Therefore, you have the power of restriction to restrict the seichel. And vehine, the koach gbola, hanal, this is what we were referring to. It's also in the koach of the maskil atzmo, that the power of the person who is giving over this idea. Shemisham nimshach giloi, because from there you're getting the revelation of the seichel, to give over the seichel in every matter that is something that can be understood. From there comes also the koyach of the gavul hagbil es seichel. So from the koyach of the seichel, so it's a seichli thing to be magbil the seichel. So as you're giving over something seichel, so if you're giving over a class to a lower level, so therefore you need your own seichel in order to give over only some of it. And what do you give over? How do you give it over? That's all the koyach of the seichel. So therefore the power to restrict is also coming from your seichel. The hem bechinas chesed, the gevura, sheba koyach hamaskil. The mebechinas chesed sheba bakoach hagiloi legalo. So we have the chesed is the revelation. So therefore you have the expansion is coming from the chesed of the seichel. That you, because of your chesed, you've got this geschmack idea where you want the makabel, to receive, that you have, and you want them to get, and therefore you are trying to expand. The chesed is making that you want to give them everything. The gevura will want you to restrict it. So that because the gevura is saying if you give him everything, he'll get nothing. So therefore, restrict. Don't tell him everything. Because if you go too far and you give him the ketzois and you give him the nesiva, so therefore they won't get anything. But you want to reveal. So therefore, the seichel will tell you how to put those together. The hadogma means that yuvan lamala b'beish shemos tahvai ve'elokim. So for this example, we'll understand above in the two names Hashem ve'elokim. Shehu koach hagiloi. So therefore, Havaya is a revelation, and the koach hagavol is Elokim. That both of them are coming from the Or Ein Sof. It's the etzem and the mahusa, the mitziuso. Just like the revelation, that is the bechinis of Shem Havaya. So the revelation is coming from Havaya. It comes from the atzmos of Or Ein Sof. Because the Or is Davak b'ma'or, and again we brought this point before, that the Or and the Ma'or they have similar properties. Ma'ein ha'ma'or, and this type of the Or is like the Or. So therefore it's coming from the name of Elokim is this restriction, and it comes also from the Atzmos of Or Ein Sof. So just like the revelation is coming from Ein Sof. So one way to see this, and again this is really the Chiddush of the Mamar, is one way to see it is that Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is the Atzmos, and Elokim is some type of Ishtalshalos, or some type of lower power, and it's not coming from the Atzmos of Ein Sof, it's coming from the Or of Ein Sof, or the revelation of Ein Sof, but it is a step down. But here what he's saying is that just like, so the Or and the Ma'or are really coming from the same place, and therefore just like Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is the Atzmos of Ein Sof, and therefore Elokim is also the Atzmos. That the power of restriction. So this is Kamosha Kosov is written in this Kabbalistic book by Abdus Kodesh, the Or Ein Sof, who Shilmusa de Kula, that it's Shalom and all. The Kashem Sheyesh Lo Koyach, just like it has the power, Bevalti Bal Gavol, just like it has the power without having Gavol. Kein Yesh Lo Koyach Bu Gavol, therefore it also has the power in the Gavol. Again, this reflects on the idea that if God can't be physical, so therefore it's a problem in his infinity. So therefore the Ein Sof, it's not that, Ruchnius is Ein Sof and Gashmius is some type of mirror of a mirror world that's lower. It's that just like that the power, that's just like the Ein Sof can be infinite, so too the Ein Sof can be finite. So the Ba'al Gavul that doesn't have any limitation, so that's the Ein Sof. Kach Yesh Lo Kochos has the power to have limitation. Shim Temtza, if you say that it has the Koach of Bli Bagvul, that it has the power of infinity, and it doesn't have the power of Gavul, then you're Machzer Shlemuso. Therefore, you are lacking. Therefore, there's a Shlemus, there's a lacking of Shalom in the Ein Sof, Chas v'Chalil. Just like there is a Koach of infinity, also there's a power of finity. That's the idea of Shem Elokim, Shehu Bechinas Koyach HaGavol. So that is, again, coming from the Ein Sof, it's a Koyach HaGavol. Not a lower power, not a different power than Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Well, it is a different power from Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, but Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is the same power, but that's in Revelation, trying to expand. The Chesed is expanding the idea. And Elokim is the same source that is restricting the idea. So just like from your Seichel, when you're coming up with the idea, how am I going to teach 5-year-olds this mathematical idea? It's all coming from the same source. So what you're teaching is coming from your Seichel, and what you're not teaching is coming from your Seichel. So your power to expand and to give over is coming from your seichel. But the same power is restricting it, because you know that if you tell him all the A plus B equals C, then the 5-year-old kid just won't understand what you're saying. So it's all your ability to not give over is coming over from exactly the same power that is the ability to give over. So shehu bechinas koyach hagavol sheba Or Ein Sof atzmuso umetzuso. Imken, if so, me'achar, just like the Shem Elokim is the bechinas of atzmus Or Ein Sof, Mamish, Kamo Shem Havaya. So therefore the Elokim and the Havaya is coming from the same source. And Kem Huvan, you'll understand how Shem Elokim doesn't master Al Shem Havaya. So again, this is an important point as it comes out in the Tzimzum of God, that the idea of Elokim that is not hiding. And again, this is a big machlokas, and some people will hold that Elokim is hiding on Shem Havaya. But the Chiddush of this Mamar is explaining that the Elokim is a revelation of Havaya. It's not hiding on Havaya. And then you'll have the question. So again, the question we opened up with is that when God created the world, did the creation reveal God or it hid God? So if we're saying that Elokim was, again, the whole world was Bereshit bara Elokim. Elokim was creating the world. So was this Elokim? Was this a hiding of God, or was it a revelation of God? And again, you can take your side, but this Mamar is arguing that it is revealing God. So it's Eino Master or Shem Havaya, when you are not hiding Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, this power of infinity, but it is the Atzmuso, since it's coming, so just like Havaya is coming from the Atzmuso, Elokim is also coming from the Atzmuso, and therefore it's not hiding, it is revealing, as will be dealt with in depth later. Because it's impossible that something itself can hide itself. So again, this famously comes out in the halacha of that if you put your hand on your head, you're not called covering your head. But if you put your sleeve on your head, you can, because your hand is you. And therefore you can't hide yourself. When you're playing with children, so you put your hands over your eyes and it's like, oh, I can't see you, so you can't see me, and then you remove your hands, and now here we are. But as you put your hands on yourself, you're not hidden. If you're trying to hide from somebody and you put yourself over yourself, so therefore you're not hiding, he can see you. You need something external to you to hide yourself. So since nothing is external to, since Elokim is not external to Yud Kei Vav Kei, therefore when God hides himself with Elokim, he is not hiding anything. And all you see is this grown man with his hands over his eyes. And most of the people who are following the emperor's new clothes are saying, I can't see him. But it's an extremely immature attitude. So just like somebody can't, he can't hide in himself. So this is brought down in the halacha in kisoy harosh, that it doesn't help that he uses his hand on his head, but if his friend covers his hand, so therefore that is a kisoy, because an outside force is covering, so that's called a covering. But when the internal source is covering itself, therefore that's not called a covering. So again, if you have a snail who goes inside his shell, can you not see the snail anymore? So maybe the slug part you can't see, but the snail isn't hidden because you can still see the snail is there. So this is the yisoid, that the etzem cannot hide itself. We also understand Lamala in the Shem Elogim that is the bechinus of Atzmos, and so she'eno, it doesn't ma'alim, it doesn't hide, and it doesn't hide on the name of Havaya, because the ein etzem ma'alim u'maser al etzem, because itself cannot hide itself. V'zehu the Havaya v'Elokim kol echad. That's what it means when it says that Havaya and Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's all one. Shnehim him atzmos or Ein Sof, because they are both the etzem of Ein Sof, and ve'ina chachafim klal. It's not the opposite. So we'll say, well, Yud Kei Vav Kei is the infinity world where I can just melt away in infinity, and Elokim is din and it's physicality, and it's hard to see God there, and therefore they're really opposites of each other. So they're not opposites at all. Mi'achar de Shem Elokim im hu shu koyach tzimzum mikom makom eino mitzamtzum elam kalal al Shem Havaya. So again, an important line here is that the Elokim is the tzimzum of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So again, what we're building up to is that if you just get Yud Kei Vav Kei, so therefore you'll just be overwhelmed with the infinity, and then you'll just touch infinity, and then you'll just lose yourself. So therefore you have to restrict. So again, that's just like, you'll just shut down, and that you're learning quantum physics from a PhD professor, and he's just telling you everything that he knows about it on at the top level, and you just don't understand anything in which he's saying. So it was just shut down, and you can't get anything from him. The only way that you will understand him or understand his point is if he tzimtzums himself, is if he restricts what he's saying and brings his ideas into a way that you can relate to, not that he can relate to. So that the Elokim is the koyach of the Tzimzum. So therefore, since the koyach of the Tzimzum is only there to reveal the infinity, it's not there to restrict the infinity, it doesn't restrict and hide klal al Shem Havaya. So again, this is the idea that Elokim, who created the world, is an idea to reveal God. It's not an idea to hide God. So now we need an explanation of this, because it's not necessarily so understood, this idea. We're just touching on this side. So lahavin bir devarma now, as we said above, because seemingly it does not understand, because the whole inyan of Shem Elokim is to mitzamtzem and to hide God. And how can we say that he doesn't hide at all? If the whole point of this is to not get Yud Kei Vav Kei, the whole point is that the Yud Kei Vav Kei is too much, so therefore Elokim comes. It's like wearing the sunglasses to look at the sun, and how can you say that the sunglasses don't restrict the sun at all? It's ridiculous. The Eich Efshar, how is it possible that both of them are hiding and they don't hide? But the inyan will be understood with the mashal, the Nefesh Adam. So we're going to go through this mashal, the Nefesh Adam, to understand this idea. Dehina anu royim b'mashpia makabel. So we have this relationship between the giver over and the receiver. Kashem Makabel Rachuk Arko Mehashpia. So when you have a Talmud and he's not a chaver of the mashpia, he's not on the same level of the mashpia, but he's very far from the seichos. If you go to Shir, and then you have the Shirav who's been learning for 40 years and you've been learning for 2 years. So now there's going to be a big difference between the erech, the comparison of the seichos. So therefore the mashpia, So you have a big chacham and a small, and you have a katan in seichel. That's shalova erach hamashpia, because therefore they're not on the same level. Hine behechrach, it has to be that the mashpia needs to restrict and needs to hide the etzma of seichel and its chachma, because sheish hadavar hamuskal hahu, because there are things in this idea which is given over that he can't receive to him, he can't reveal to him only what is on the level of the makabel. Because if he reveals to him the depths and the widths of the chachma, the hadavar muskal, and if he reveals him everything in this idea, just like it is, according to the mashpia, again, who's been doing this for 40 years, the makabel is not going to be able to receive all of this, and the makabel has to build himself up to this, and is not able to receive klal, is not able to receive a toll. So again, he just shuts down because he's getting too much. Since he's getting too much, he just shuts down. Ki im behechrach, it has to be that the mashpia will restrict and he will hide all the depths and the width of his chokhmah in this, and he will not reveal to him except just a ha'arech chitzoni. He will just reveal to him the outside ray from the davar muska, that is the understood idea. Kitzer nirmos lefi erech hamakabel. So therefore it has to be in a kitzer according to the capabilities of the makabel, and even the avkam. So even with all this, he's going to have to enclose and to hide with a mashal, because the mashal is something strange completely from the nimshal. So it's foreign to the nimshal. Rehu mechase, and therefore the mashal is covering over, and it is hiding on this on al haseichel kamo haloivish mechachas al ezedavar. So that the mashal is a levisha for the nimshal. So again, somebody who is naked walking around the streets, there might be a certain level of surprise of seeing it, but if you put a suit or some pants on the naked body, so therefore even though that the pants have nothing to do with the naked flesh, that the levisha, that this allows you to understand the nimshal, that you understand that this is a person, and that the levisha, and again, something important about the levisha is that it's not who you are, and that if somebody is whoever they are physically, so that's like the etzem of them. Now, obviously, if they're fat, they can become thin. If they're thin, they can become fat. But the levisha is just something which they're wearing. So if somebody looks a certain way when they're naked, and they look a certain way when they're clothed, so that clothing isn't really who they are. And then when they're naked, that's a far bigger reflection of who they are. So when you have the seichel, so that the mashal is like a lavush, so you put the nimshal into a levisha, into clothing, and therefore it looks completely different. And then only by removing the levisha will you get to the nimshal. And then just like there are layers of clothing, so therefore there are layers of undressing the mashal and getting to the nimshal. And you can have different layers of removing the levish and getting to the nimshal, different layers of the nimshals. You might have, when it comes to VeYadaata in the Gemara, you might have some denuding of it in things like the Ein Yaakov, and then you might have more layers taken off with the Marsha, and then more layers taken off with the Maharal, and so on and so forth. So the levush is covering over the matter, that the levush is separate from the davar, so it's separate from the matter. So again, you're not your clothing, even though you own them and you're wearing them. Kamokain, the mashal is something that is separate and it is foreign from the nimshal, and it covers over on the nimshal. However, through this, through the ability to grasp onto the mashal, you're able to grasp onto the nimshal, and you will be able to understand it. And you have the mashal is an idea of like a bridge between two islands, and that the bridge needs to touch both islands. So one island, so you have this river in between, so the far island is completely too far from you, can't get there. So the bridge is then on your island, and you understand your island, and you're there, you get that. So that the mashal in which you get has to have some type of relationship to you. And then the mashal will then be the bridge in order to bring you over the river, over the sea, into the second island, and has to touch the second island. So then it'll be your opening, it'll be your entry, it'll be your path into the nimshal. And that's how the mashal works. You have to, because if you give a mashal that people don't understand, so therefore that's not touching your island. And it's only like the whole bridge is in the second island of where you're going, so it won't work. V'zehu ma she'amar Rizal. La'ila mishna adam netamid b'derech katzara. Says the Gemara in Cholin, Usim Pesachim, they say it in the name of Rebbe Meir, that you should teach your Talmud in a short way. What does the short way mean? That is, that you will not reveal to him the depth and the width like it is amongst him, so that the teacher has all the information he needs, the depth and the width. Don't give that all over. Shein lefi erech hamakabel, because the makabel can't receive all that. The makabel isn't able to makabel. He's not able to receive. So the Talmud, if you give him everything, then he'll get nothing. Ki im tzarach limtzo derech katzara. You have to find a shorter way. Nigle bezeh kol hapanimius, and therefore through that, by restricting yourself, they won't have all the panimius. Hayinu ha'oimek. That is the oimek oirech v'roichiv shalo, which is the depths and the width and the volume of what he's giving over. Ki imasha. Lefi oirech hamakabel, only what is according to the makabel. So as you're giving something over, again, communication is all according to the clay, is all according to what is being received. If you give everything over, but nothing is being received, so therefore there is no communication there. So therefore, as the teacher is given over to the student, you have to give over according to the student and not according to the teacher. And that's called in the Gemara derech katzara. Magala lo, but different katzara. And therefore you reveal to him only the katzer things, the shorter things, without all the depth. What it says to teach him in this derech katzara. In a kavana, the kavana of this is not that it will be in this the panemius, the atmos of the seichel. When he's put it in the kotzer, it's not that the panemius is missing or that the atmos of the seichel is missing to imkain. If so, that's not the derech katzara. That's not called the shorter way. That ki im kamo seichel acher. It's something completely different. So you're not giving him it's so when you have two paths, one's long and one's short, they will go to the same place. But if you just tell them something that's lacking the ability to arrive at that place, so therefore it's called a different path. You have path one going to A, but it's a long path, and path B going to somewhere completely different. So it's a shorter path. You end up somewhere different. So therefore it has to be. Since it's talking about derech katzara, therefore it has to be a place of it's exactly the same. You were going to arrive there, therefore everything's really there. The seichel that atzmi, he will learn the etzem through the short path. Everything is there, and he will learn it that way. And that is that in the helem that's hidden, there is a hishpated called oimek seichel. That in the hidden, he is able to. In the hashpa, he's able to go in and get in that. What's given over to him, all the information, and the chachma, in the muiskal hachu, that everything in this idea that's being brought over, he's able to actually achieve everything and reach the depth of everything. But it's completely concealed. In the matters and in the ways of the diktuk, the way that you can be medaic in something, the way that you can be particular. You use this word instead of that word. You use this letter instead of that letter. So if you read it as a child, so therefore it doesn't make a difference that it's written this way or that way. You're just trying to learn the basic story. But then as you go deeper into it, you can find more depths in there, and you'll see that everything's actually there. Even though the Torah you can put in a few hundred pages, you'll find everything's there because of this letter, because of that word, because of this letter. So as the depths is all there, but it's given derech katzara. And similarly to this, and then you have the hidden in the depths of the panemius and the atzmos of the chochma that's in this. And kamo Mishnah Shana Lano Rabbeinu HaKodesh. So the Mishnah is going to be a example of how this is achieved. There is a kitzer mikol arichos hapilpul ba'oimek. So that you have that the Mishnah is basically the ideas of all the Gemaras and all the Pilpulim and all the Maklokasim and the depths which you get in the Gemara, you'll find that they're really only fighting over the Mishnah. And then the Mishnah itself is a kitzer of all what's going on in the Gemara. And you're able to, if you can unpack the Mishnah, then you're able to get more and more and more Torah, and you're able to expand it out like the Gemara. Because by them, by Inin Shanalanu calls Rabbeinu HaKodesh B'Loshen Mishnah B'Kitzer. So everything is being taught over B'Kitzer in these short words by Rabbeinu. So Nimrod Shiyeh Lefei Archenu. So fitting according to our Seichel. Amnam B'Emes Yesh B'Loshen Mishnah Kol Oimek. But in truth, there is in the Loshen Mishnah all the depth on the Panemius and the Atzmos of the Chachma. And just like in the Gemara, it's explained after this. Each prat, each specific of the lashon of the Mishnah with a depth and the width. And in the Mishnah, it's in hidden. So you have like in the Mishnah, it's packed and it's full, and then the Gemara unpacks it all. So you have the same idea. So just like the Mishnah, everything's there, and you can come out with pages and pages of Gemara of one line in the Mishnah. So too, when the Mashpia, when the teacher is teaching over to the student, then he hides in the Shefa all the depths of his Chokhmah. But only that he is hiding it from the receiver, and what he shines in revelation, that's only the chitzonis of the Seichel, what's according to the Erech, what's according to the specifications of the Makabel. So as what you're hearing is the chitzoni, but all the panimi is still there. So again, the chitzoni of the Torah is Avraham. He went to the land of Canaan. That's all the chitzoni. It's a simple story, but there's lots of depth there. That if you go into it more, you'll find more depth. The hakoyach is this power in the mashpia to be able to mitzamsem and to hide the actual seichel itself. That is from the koyach of the hagbala. That's from the koyach of restriction that is in the koyach of the maskil. So the person himself, the teacher, he needs this power of hagbala, of limitation. That only by limiting himself is he going to be able to give over the depths, because again, if he doesn't limit, then he'll give everything over, and the student will just be dumbfounded and not learn anything. All the Tzimzum and the hiddenness now is only now that Tzimzum is only according to the Mekabel, so that the person that's listening to everything. So for him, so he hears a different story as opposed to all the pilpul and he gets all the Gemara. Instead, he just gets a nice line in the Mishnah. So he thinks that he's not getting everything. So that there's a Tzimzum that's only according to the Makabel. V'lo v'gabe hamashpia. So when Rebbe is writing the Mishnah, Klapi Rebbe, everything's in that line. And he's not mitzamtzem anything. But according to the Makabel, since he doesn't know how to see everything in there, so therefore he will read the Mishnah and think that it's a simple idea. So they say that the Gro at the end of his life, he would just read a Sefer Torah, and he'd be able to see Kol Torah Kula in the Torah by reading it. So therefore he's through his life he's able to reach the level that when God is writing the Torah, so therefore for God there's no Tzimtzum Matal, and all Kol Torah Kula and all the Midrashim and all the Gemaras and all the Pilpul and everything's there in the Torah. So when you get yourself into that level, so therefore you work yourself back. So from God's perspective, everything's in the Torah, but from our perspective, it's a nice simple stories about simple things going on, but all the depth is there. Sharei Gabe Mashpia, he's Me'ir Begila. He is shining everything. Everything's there because he's made a Medaik. He's made the Mashal. The Mashal it works all the way to the Nimshal. And all the diukim that are there, he's put them all in there, and you can find your way there. So all the depths of the seichel and his chacham and the seichel that is restricted like it was before it was restricted. So there's no real difference between giving 20 pages of Gemara and giving one line of Mishnah. Klapi, the expert who's writing that, it's all the same. And also in the mashal, he sees all the depths of the seichel, because the mashal is fitting for the seichel and fitting for the nimshal. Lo zu bilvad. It's not only this that the seichel that is mitzamtzen, that it's lighting against him all the depths of the seichel. Even in the mishalim, he sees all the specifications of the nimshal, just like it was by him when he was mushpat mikol lovosh. So again, the mashal is a levisha for the story. So you have the nimshal. So the nimshal would be an idea of nakedness, and you put this nakedness inside clothes, which is the mashal, and the mashal is just clothing in order for you to interact with it. And now once you have that levisha, so by the person who he still sees the same person even though they're dressed up. If you're looking at the panemius, so therefore the same person is there even though you've put all these clothes on. You put all the clothes on, you're still touching the panemius. So as you put the nimshal into a mashal, all the best mashals they're not hiding the nimshal, they're revealing the nimshal, and every prat in the mashal is a good it reveals a nimshal more. So for example, if you use a pigeon instead of a fox, or a fox instead of a pigeon, it's because the fox reveals more in the nimshal than the pigeon does, whatever a fox is. And the more you learn about foxes, the more you'll learn about the nimshal. The more you learn about pigeons, the more you'll learn about the nimshal. That's how a good mashal works. So that's all according to the power of the maskil. So if a maskil isn't very good or isn't very deep, so therefore the mashal, even because his seichel won't be so deep, and therefore a bad fitting mashal will still reveal the depth of his seichel, because it doesn't have to fit so well. because it's not so deep anyway. But then when you have someone who has a deep seichel, so therefore the mashal fits even better and even better, because his seichel is able to bring out a better mashal and therefore reveal more in the hiddenness of the mashal. He'll be able to reveal more of the nimshal, the kamal mashal haaretz agashmi. So we have a example here that we have the physical land, and that's a mashal for the idea of malchus shelamala, so that the malchus in the shemayim, so therefore we'll see this all in Aretz down here, the physical land. That is, that the thickness, which is the density and the roundness, like the sphere of the world, and the gravity, kavoidoi, umasha hatzmiach tzmichim, that it grows things. Harezeh mashal. It's all a mashal for the level of malchus of Atzilus that gives existence to creation in all the worlds, Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, from the Ein Eish, as we talk about in another place. And he sees in the land, the physical land, all the specifications of the nimshal of Malchus of Atzilus, because in truth, the mashal and the nimshal, it's all one thing. This is ruchni v'gzeh gashmi. So we have the physical earth in which we can stick our hands into and we can physically touch and deal with. That's just a mashal for the nimshal. What is the nimshal is Malchus de Atzilus, but that's a ruchni thing which you can't physically touch. He will see all the details of the nimshal in the mashal, and that is that you will see God with his senses. So he'll have a physical ability to see God. So the Shekhinah is something that's ruchni, and therefore you can't see the Shekhinah. But if you want to physically see God, so therefore what you have to do is see the physical world and stop differentiating between the mashal and the nimshal. And therefore everything in your life is the nimshal dressed up in a physical object. And the reason it's doing that is in order for it to megala what's in behind, to megala the nimshal. So therefore, if somebody hurts you, so therefore that's God punch you in the face. And then if someone loves you, that's God loving you. You have a sight of beauty, that's seeing God. If you have a touch, that's touching God. That's all. But why is not God? Because it's the mashal of God. But inside the mashal is the nimshal. And if you differentiate between the nimshal and the mashal, so therefore you'll spend your whole life looking for God. But if you stop separating between the nimshal and the mashal, so therefore God is everywhere, just like the gashmias is everywhere. So therefore, from God's perspective, God is just being loivesh into the chair that's on the street. But from our perspective, you just see a piece of broken wood. But from God's perspective, there's no hester at all. Because the only point of the Tzimzum is in order to allow you to get it. The whole point of having the mashal is allow you to understand the nimshal. So if you have, again, a classic mashal will be the animal farm, and then kids can learn it at 5 years old. They can read a nice story about pigs and about horses, and again, as they're older, they can understand the practice of the mashal deeper and deeper, and that this pig is referring to this specific character, and the bird is the church. Why is a bird a church? Because it's flying and it doesn't do work. You have but as a kid, you just learn the story in itself. But if you tell the kid about the Bolshevik Revolution when he's 5-6 years old, so he'll get nothing. So therefore it's the same story, it's just according to the specifications of the Makabel, and therefore we come out with this nice story of a farm in order to teach a kid something that he can't get if you give him all the raw information. So therefore in the mashal, that animal farmer is not there to hide the Bolshevik Revolution, it's there to reveal the Bolshevik Revolution. And by George Orwell, when he's writing the story, he's not hiding anything. From his perspective, the pig is Stalin, the pig is Trotsky, and it's only by the Makabel when he's reading about pigs, so therefore there he has the hester. But from the mashpia, from the person who's telling over the mashal and putting all the details into the mashal, from him there's no helam hester at all. So I'm just reading a story about cows and pigs, but I have the ability, as my seichel gets bigger, I have the ability to then understand the nimshal and go from the pig to Stalin and go from the horse to the proletariat. I'm able to do those things, even though as a child I get none of that, because the mashal is there. And again, it's only from my perspective that there is a blockage. But as I grow my seichel, so therefore I can remove more and more of that blockage. So according to the Makabel, it's all Helam v'Hester. And this is because he's giving him the outside of the seichel, but the panemius and the asmos is hidden from him. So this it's hidden from the Makabel, because if you give him all the depth, so therefore again he'll get nothing. And the truth, even according to the Makabel, it's not real. It's not a real Helem. Important words. Even according to the Makabel, ein ze Helem amiti. Even if he feels the Helem, if he feels the hidingness and he feels the dark and the depths, it's not a real Helem. Sheharei mikum kom ali dezeh meir, because through this, through the moshel and through the Tzimzum, he will get the light and the revelation and the lights of the or of the seichel, of the depths of what's being taught. Ki baladia tzimtzum, without the tzimtzum and the hester, he wouldn't have any light and the or of seichel at all. He'll get nothing, as we've already explained, because if the mashpia would be given to all the depths of his chachma as it is by the Talmid Chacham, then he will mobalbel the chushav legamri, that he'll overpower the makabel, and the makabel will receive nothing, and everything will be mixed up and everything will be lo keseder. Tzimzum, through restriction and hidingness of the light, that's how you get the light of the seichel. If so, then it is not a real hiddenness. Ein ze hester amiti. It is not real hester, is not real hiding. Even that the depths of the internals of the seichel of the mashpia is being shown and revealed to the makabel through the mashpia shemashpia, that what he's being told, even in the kotzer level. Shurei azal lo kim einish adaiti derabbe ad arbim shanim. This is Gemara in Vodazora Heim and Base. Amarabba shmamina lo kai einish adaiti derabbe ad arbim shanim. It was coming on based on Moshe after 40 years. And the pasuk says, in these 40 years, lo niten Hashem lechem leiv ledas. So only after 40 years do you have all these things. So therefore, Chazal learn out that it takes 40 years to understand. But after 40 years, you do get it. So for the first 40 years, as you get a seichel and you get this chachma, then after 40 years, then you get all the way to the sof das, and you get all the amkus and the panemius. Uperish daite the Rabbi hayinu panemius ve'etzmusus kavanaso ve'amar kamarazal kavei Rebbe Meir. So what does it mean that it's that you get the daite of the Rebbe? That's the panemius, the atzmus of the seichel, because you get the seichel immediately. I mean, Moshe tells you, keep Shabbos. So you get Shabbos. They were keeping Shabbos for 40 years, but that's only the chitzoni of the ideas. So by Rebbe Meir, so the Chachamim were not able to lamod al sof daitov to the end of it, to the end of his das, and Rashi says, and the etzem of the kavanaso. So what does it mean, sof das of Rebbe Meir? It's the etzem kavanaso, which is the atzmius of the seichel, and the penimis of the seichel of Rebbe Meir. V'zehu tekim da'adaita the Rebbe, and how we are able to get the Rebbe, hayinu al etzem penimis v'kavanaso. So therefore, of the Rabbe, so that the Chazal in Avodah Zarah, that you are standing by the das of the Rebbe, of your Rebbe, that is the etzem of the penimus of the kavan. And the Inyan, the Hinin Isbar La'ayal is explained above, that although the mashpia and the der katzara, nevertheless, is with this in hiddenness, all the depths of his chokhmah, only what he's revealing to the makabel, that is in the beginning of, it's in the level of revelation and the chitzonis of the chokhmah, and the etzem of the chokhmah gives to him the mashpia in behelem be'enonim, that it's in be'enehem, that it's hidden in his eyes, in the diktok of the be'enyonim, that in the hiddenness of the matters. And the diktuk, in the words, if you're medayek and you're particular in all the words and all the matters, so there you'll find all the ideas of the mashpia. And therefore, the makabel he receives from the mashpia, and it is yeshiv that he gets it. Behold, when he is medayek after that, and all the matters and the words and what he used, and then he is megiyat atzmo, that he has to make a big effort, and he wearies himself in this through what he was receiving that in revelation. Then he will come to the depths of the panemius, and the panemius is in hiddenness. But once he goes through what is revealed, then he can through yigiyas atzmo, through work, then he can get the depths of the panemius and of the kavano and the etzem hachmaso and the real Chochmah as it was by the Rav Mamish before he met Samsem Edatzmo Hashpia, so that he goes all the way back to the Machshava. So the Mashpia, the teacher, has a Chochmah, he has a Machshava, he has ideas, and then he has to met Samsem them in order to give it over to the Talmud, so that the Talmud won't be overpowered. And then the Talmud gets that, he understands the idea, and then he goes deeper into it and deeper into it and deeper into it until he goes back to the original Machshava, the original thought in which what the Mashpia was given over, and obviously the deeper the idea, so the longer the time it will take to get there. The simpler the idea, so maybe after one session of Chazara, you'll get there. And again, this is really one of the main points of Chazara. You're not doing the same thing over and over again. You're getting new information every time because it's not a newspaper, but it is a zip file of Chachma, and therefore every time that you go over it, you're unzipping more and more and more of it, and therefore you do Chazar 100 times, you're still going to get more out of it the 101st time. But people don't like doing Chazar because they don't like getting the atzim. They're all looking for the chitzoni, that Judaism becomes a chitzoni and outwardly religion, and therefore they're not interested in the panemia. So therefore, I got it. I got the chitzoni, and I don't want anything else. And therefore, the whole lives is just run on this idea of chitzoni. That I just want the outside. So I just want looks, and I just want pleasure. So therefore, when it comes to doing chazara, people don't want to do it. Similarly, he sees the panemius of the chachma, the hamashalim, that like similarly in the mashal he'll be able to see all the depths, and the panemia of the chacham that's in the mashal. Hakol kamo harav atzmo, everything like the Rav sees. When the Rav makes up the story and he has the nimshal and he puts it into the mashal, so too, when the Talmud gets to the depths, he will see the nimshal in the mashal, the way that the Rav had it. After he understands well the nimshal through the mashal. So you need the mashal first, and you understand the mashal. Now, once you understand the mashal, now try to understand the nimshal. That is that the prat of the depths of the mashal that comes to with the prat of the depths of the nimshal in the panemius of the kavana that's in it, like it was in the emukavet tachliso, like it is in its original state. Then he will enlighten against him all the details of the nimshal through the mashal, and he will see and he will feel the inyan of the godliness in the mechush mamish now. So therefore, you will feel the godliness again. Mechush is in the senses that will by going through in the mashal, that through the mashal bring the mashal back to the nimshal, and therefore the mashal will be your conduit to godliness, not the ruchiness, but the gashmis itself, davka, with your chush, with your senses. You will see God, you will smell God, you will taste God. And that's by bringing the mashal back to the nimshal and seeing God through your senses. So what is found then, once the Makabel does this, then they will equal the Makabel with the Mashpia, even in his understanding on the level of grabbing the panemius of the Kavana. So what's the difference between the two? Eile she'etzel Mashpia hu bechinas or Yasher. So by the mashpia, the one who's giving it, this is the level of straight light, because he knows the depths of the nimshal. So he created the mashal. Where did the mashal come from? It came from the mashpia, because the mashpia knows the nimshal, and he understands the nimshal. Therefore, he's creating the mashal from the nimshal. So that's an inside out. So he's drawing out the nimshal into the mashal, and through this, it is mecharish through him the Riyah b'muchash. So therefore he's able to have an idea that can't be felt or can't be seen or can't be smelt. And the mashpia, through his own seichel, builds it into a mashal, and through the mashal now I can touch the nimshal, I can touch the ideas, I can feel the ideas. So that's all being as a creation of the mashpia. But by the makabel, he's in the bechinas of Or Chayzer. She'al yedei hamashal, that's the returning light. So again, the classic idea would be if you're, say, playing tennis or you're playing squash. So tennis, you hit the ball and it goes straight over the net. But by the squash, when you hit the ball, then it hits the wall, and how it hits the wall is very different. How it comes off the wall is very different. How it leaves your racket. As you hit the racket, it tends to go straight, but then as it then hits the wall, it comes off a completely different way. So that you gain a certain level of gravity from that wall, and it changes the light. So the Or Yashar is just straight from A to B, but there's a change in the light from the Or Chayzer. It comes back differently, which is like a tzaddik is the Or Yashar, do the mitzvahs, and he does the mitzvahs, and he's a big tzaddik. The Baal Tshuva, do the mitzvahs. No, I'm not going to do the mitzvahs. He goes off, but then he comes back. And the way he comes back is on a completely different madrega, completely different level, completely different light than what the tzaddik does, because he never went off, so he was always straight. So therefore, he didn't change his direction. So the Or Chayzer is the makabel. The makabel and the Or Chayzer is from the outside in. Shalidei Mashal, because he's only understands the Nimshal through the Mashal. So again, the Mashpia created the Mashal because he's coming from the Nimshal. He understands everything, and therefore through his understanding of everything, he's able to create a Mashal. But the Makabel, he doesn't understand everything, but through the Mashal, he's able to understand it. So therefore, from the outside in, he understands the Nimshal, which are two completely different paths. Through the outside, because all he was given was the chitzonis of the seichel, but he was able, and hanishbala, it was given to him. He was able to work himself back. So the mashpia is working himself from the inside out, that he's creating the clothes from the nakedness of the nimshal, and the makabel is taking off the clothes to get back into the nimshal. So you have from the inside out and the outside in. Because Zeyuvan, through this we'll understand how it's the koyach of Hagabal of Hester Shel Mashpia, so that the ability of the Mashpia to hide what he mitzamsems, what he restricts, and he hides in the Seichel, in this Derech Ketzara, and in Mashals, and in things like that, that is not Hester Amiti Klal, it's not a Hester, that the Tzimzum is not a Hester. She'eino master be'emes Klal, because he's not actually hiding at all. Sheharei, Makabal alidei hashbak, kol oimek b'nimis kavras harav, that if he was trying to hide, so therefore, how can he get everything? Since the Rav is trying to hide things, so therefore, how can he get it? He gets everything. He goes all the way back into the Nimshal. So if the Rav, by putting the Nimshal into a Mashal, is trying to hide something, so therefore, how can he get back all the way to the Nimshal? So it must be that by hiding the Nimshal in the Mashal is a way to reveal the Nimshal, because if you just give over the Nimshal, you'll get nothing. You won't understand the Nimshal. So therefore, I put in the Nimshal into a Mashal. That Tzimzum, that restricting of the Nimshal, is to reveal the Nimshal. So therefore, when God is creating the world, he creates the mashal, which is this world, which is the nimshal. Why did he create the world? To reveal himself, not to hide himself, but to reveal himself. Imkain, if that's the case, that the Hester is in order to reveal. It's not Hester. The Tzimtzum is not a Hester. It's a revelation. That the whole point of the Hester is that he's able to makabel, because without the Hester, then he would be Megala el the Seichel as it is by the Mashpia, and he would mix up completely the senses of the makabel, and he would not be able to makabel at all, even the Chitzoni of the Seichel. As just Ukamosh Kasav, Shalo Hayim Makabel es Penimis HaKavana, so he wouldn't receive the Penimius of the Kavana. So if he gives him everything, so therefore he won't even receive the panemius. He will never get to the panemius because he won't get the outside first. And through the Helam and the Hester, he reveals al kopanim the revelation of the chitzoni of the seichel. And Ba'agam Kain, and through this he is able to. He doesn't have to, but again through the yegia, through the chazara, through the putting effort in himself, he will come also to the depths of the panemius of the kavanas of the Rav, as said above. V'nimsa she'hester shel mashpia in Hester emiti klal. We find out that from the mashpia, again, the Hester which he's giving, it's not a true Hester. It's only legalos. Adrabah, call it, who legalos. So it's Adrabah. You would think that it is a Hester. So you think that the creation of the world is hiding God, but really Adrabah, the whole point of it is only to reveal, because again, revealing infinity, it's not such a simple task. Vayinu masha mevi or haseichel shel mashpia gam panimis yatmusul chachmosul lamokum nomal harba. So you have to bring such a height, this infinity, to that's coming from such a height. You got to bring it down to such a low level. Shigam Sham Yor, also there in the low level, it will be revealed the Ora Mashpia. And again, this is the point of the Tzimzum and of the Hester, is in order to bring this infinite light into such a low level. V'hainu b'hamakabel kot, so somebody who isn't on the level of the Chacham, he will be able to reach the level of the Chacham. So this person who is in the Makabel, the student, isn't on the level of the Mashpia. Also, he will understand the light of the Mashpia, the understandings and the levels of the Mashpia, also in the depths of the Pnimius, of the Atzmos, of the Chochmah, of the Mashpia. And it's found by MS in Zehel Hester Klaus. So therefore, by creating the Mashalim and the ways to understand the Mashpia, so therefore there is no Hester whatsoever in the teachings of the Mashpia when he is Mitzamsem. Ki im Adrabah, he brings the light to the level that's below him. And this example from all this will be understood above in the Indians of Shem Havai Velokim. Because the name of Elokim, that is the level of the Midas Tzimzum. And the hiddenness that is mitzamtzem, and it hides on the light of the Shem Havaya. So Shem Havaya is mashpia, and it is rachamim, and it expands, and it creates and therefore you're reaching this level of infinity, the constant given, and then comes the name of Elokim, and it restricts the levels of Havaya. In order, why does it do that? In order that you're able to be an existence of the world, because as we explained above, that the name of Havaya, it is the source of revelation. That is the revelation of the light in the level without any beligavul, without any constrictions, because the light has that connection with the Ma'or, that the sun and the light of the sun have that connection to each other, and that it's just like the Ma'or. It's just like the sun. So the light coming out of the sun is like the light that's in the sun. And just like the Ma'or is Ein Sof, it has no boundaries, therefore the Or also has no boundaries. And if so, then it's not in the level, it's not in the level of the orbit of the world. It's not shaykh at all for this world, because all the worlds, they are in the level of yesh ugvul, that they have boundaries. If they don't have boundaries, then they're not going to fit here. The whole point of the physical world is that it's physical and it has boundaries. If it's Ein Sof, so then it's not this world. The Or Ein Sof, it's built to Balgavul. So it doesn't have any sense of finiteness. That's the whole point of Ein Sof. It has no end. Gavul, Bagavul, Inim Be'erach Zulazu. So you can't have the two things coming together. So as we were saying before, that the mashal allows you to understand the nimshal. So therefore Elokim is the mashal that allows you to understand the nimshal of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. So therefore without the mashal of Elokim you'll get nothing. So therefore the whole point of creation is to reveal Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and not to hide God. So therefore if you just have Elokim, so therefore you won't have any worlds at all, as it knows that all the actions is through the revelation of the power of the person that's doing the davka. And v'harei, this revelation of Or Ein Sof, is in the bechinas of without any borders or restrictions, as we said above, and it's not in the level of the worlds. So again, the worlds is gvul. It has an end. It has restriction. It has a physical property of having borders and boundaries. But the Or Ein Sof has no boundaries. So the Or Ein Sof is not in the same level of the erech of the worlds. You have Bli Gavul and the worlds of Gavul coming together. That is the Indian of the Shem Elokim, the Tzimzum, and then it hides the Or of the name of Havaya. And that is that it hides the beginnings of the Panemius and the Atzmus of the Or of Hashem, and it doesn't give light only to the outside light from it. So again, we said before that when you get the outside light, so therefore that brings you the ability to get into the inside light. But if you get both the Panemius and the Chitzonius, so therefore you'll lose everything. V'harazul mitlavish b'kelim, and then this light comes in to the kelim of Eser Svirus, to Atzilus, in the level of his chalkas chesed v'chesed. So as the light of Ein Sof comes into Atzilus, then it starts to be having names and separation. It loses the idea of infinity, even though in Atzilus you have 10 that are 1. So before the worlds of Atzilus, then everything is 1, and everything has the level of beyond Seichel and into infinity. But once it reaches Atzilus, so therefore this you have the 10. As it comes to the light, comes into the Kalim is revealing, and it's also holding. So you have the 10 midos that are in the Kalim of Atzilus, but really they're all 1. So now that it's come into 10, now it has the level of Shaykh to the worlds. And Reizeh Kamo Sheikhal Mitzamsim ala Mashpia. So just like a God coming into the world of Atzilus, and there's a Tzimzum there, as God then goes out of infinity and into 10, so too you have the same idea of when you are restricting your Seichel of the Mashpia according to the erech of the Makabel. So yeah, again, communication is all about what is received. So therefore, giving everyone everything there's no communication there. But as your communication is lefia erech hamakabel. So just like if you teach your maths to a 5-year-old, that you have to bring it down to his level. So therefore, God has to bring down the world into our level, because if we don't understand and we're not able to makabel infinity, so therefore God giving us infinity won't do anything. But what does he do? He gives us a world that we can understand and we can interact with, and through that marshal of the world, then we can then get to the infinity of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the panemius of God, we're able to access. So therefore, through the Kalim, and you have the separations between the worlds, that when a new light comes into a new world, so therefore you have to have the separation. Is if you have the same light from the old world coming into the new light. So as you go down, the different worlds are going lower. So therefore, if we have the light from the old world, it's not going to work in the new world. It's too great, it's too infinite for that world. So therefore, there has to be a separation that fundamentally changes the quality of that light as it comes then into the lower world. So each world, and even within the same world, then you have these separations that bring down the level of the light, so that the light is shaykh and it is fitting for each of the lower worlds. So it's the light that's shining in Atzilus, so that was to come into Bria, so therefore it would just flood Bria, and Bria couldn't really exist because it would have the light of Atzilus, and therefore there has to be a step down in that light, and that's called, in the scriptures, ideas of Parsa, that you have a curtain or a separation between the worlds. So Nimshach Or Lefi Erech Olamos, each world, Mal Gavol Yos Olamos Bria. So you have to have the world, the light has to be smaller in the lower worlds in order that those worlds can actually makabel the light. Again, Lefi Ha'erech HaMakabel. However, behold, all the beginners of the hiddenness that we've said above in the Shem of Elokim, that's only Gabi Atzmas or Ein Sof. Ein Ze Malim and Master Klal. So again, this Hester and the reduction of the light doesn't cover anything up at all, as we said above in the Mashal, that according to the Mashpia, there is no Helem or Etzlo, that the person that's giving the Mashal, he doesn't see any restriction whatsoever. All the depths of his Seichel and his Chochmah is also in the Seichel that is Tzimzum and in the Mashal. So when he gives over a good Mashal, everything's in the Mashal. Therefore, from his perspective, there is no Tzimzum, as we've said above. And similarly, we'll be understanding in the Bechinas of Lamala, that we in the levels above, that by the Orein Sof, there is no Tzimzum, a Hester Klal, because Orein Sof is found in the Mokam HaChalal La'achar HaTzimzum, just like before the Tzimzum. As it says, as a Shemaim v'yasarta nimale. So the Shemaim and the Arts, I fill. So therefore, as God is mitzamtzem himself into the world, it says, Hani havaya lo shanisi. I never change. So since he didn't change, therefore from his perspective, before the world was created and after the world was created, there is no difference from God's perspective. So the halal is the going out of infinity, the tzimzum. Again, this is dealt with in more details in the video on Rishimu, but the halal is where God steps out of the room. But from God's perspective, he never stepped out of the room. And that's really what Elokim, and this is discussed also in the Shar Yichud V'Amuna, that removing light from a room, a human can do that. But what Elokim does is that it removes the light from the room, and you can't see it, but the light is still there. So if you block the light coming in and you turn the light off, so therefore the light's not in the room, what Elokim does, which is the halal, this is what the halal is that you take out the light, but the light's still there. You can't see the light, but the light is still there. That, then man can't do, humans can't do. That's the halal. So from God's perspective, the light's still there. Nothing's changed. It's just from our perspective, we can't see it. So can a man hide in hidden places and I won't see him? Because also after all the hiddenness and the Hester, it's found that the ordained Sof Baruch Hu is everywhere, because there is no place Panim Minei Klal. So this is a quote from the Zohar Delis Asr Panoim Minei, that there is no place that is empty from God, and then the Tzimzum K'Pshuto will understand this as there's no place that is free from his Hashgacha. So there's Hashgacha Pratis in the whole world, so therefore God is running the whole world like a brain will run the body. But here we're understanding it that God himself is, that the Atzmos is everywhere, because you can't remove the Atzmos of God from any place, and therefore even after the Halal, even after God steps out of the room, that's only from our perspective, and God is still here in the room, which is the idea of Tzimzum K'Pshuto, Tzimzum Lav K'Pshuto. And this section is kind of explaining the whole paper is based on this idea and proving to a degree the ideas of Tzimzum Lav K'Pshuto. Here we're using all the Psukim K'Pshuto to understand that this is talking about a level of God
is here, even though it seems from our perspective he's not. But again, this is the whole point of the mashal and the nimshal. From my idea, if I hear a story in the mashal, so therefore I don't think that there's a nimshal there. It takes me time to realize what there is a nimshal and what the nimshal is. But from the perspective of the person giving the story, there was always a nimshal. The nimshal was always there. The nimshal can't be taken out of the mashal. That's the whole point of the mashal. It has the nimshal in it. And all these psukim, kabshuters, is explaining that God never left. K'mosh Kasav. So it says in Tehillim, if I will go up to Shemayim, there you are. And if I make my bed in the grave, there you are. Because also in the grave, in the land, and you have the parched and the abyss, or the depths and the levels of the Tachlis Elam, that you have so this is like the halal, where God stepped out of the room and it's completely dark, and you go the further down you go into the abyss and into the pit of destruction. So then it seems like you're going further and further away from God, but He's everywhere. So you go to the Tachlis of the Helam and the Hester. You look into the black abyss, into the void. You stare into the void, and the void stares back. And the more you go into the void, the more void you have. But really there, Gam Sham, Nimsa Orin Sof Baruch Hu. Also there, God is there, because all you're doing is getting more and more into the mashal. The more and more you get into the mashal, the deeper you go into the nimshal. Again, why is He there? Because the Tzimzum is only from our perspective, and from the Orin Sof, from God's perspective, there is no Tzimzum at all. And all of the Hester is only to reveal all the Hester is only according to the perspective of the creating of what's being created. They don't see the revelation of the Orin Sof. Why? Because it's hidden. Because again, that's Elokim that takes the light out of the room, but the light is still there. But by the Orin Sof, there's no Elam v'Hester at all. And by Be'emes, it's not Hester. It's not a true Hester, rather because it's only. So Vahini Be'emes Enze Hester Amiti Lagabe had Hanivroim. So it was just explained that the whole Tzimzum is only from the perspective of the createe. So whatever's being created, they have the idea of Hester, that God stepped out of the room. But it's not true. It's not a true Hester. The point of the Hester is to reveal, and therefore it's not a true Hester, even from the perspective of the creations. So by God, for sure, there's not even a Tzimzum by God, but even by the creations, it's only the perception of Hester, but MS is no Hester at all. There's an important point here in the brackets. V'hava habatalia. She'im have a Hester legabe hamashpia. Because if when the mashpia is giving the Hester, so it is a taka Hester, and he is trying to hide himself, then therefore it'll be a Hester legabe ha makabel. That if the mashpia is not putting everything into the mashal, if the mashpia is keeping some stuff for himself, if the mashpia is only giving over some of the idea, and then it's impossible for the makabel to reach the level of the mashpia. So therefore the mashpia is experiencing, the makabel is experiencing a Hester. He's not getting everything. Gamkim. So Habaha Talia, that if it's a Hester by the Mashpia, so we're saying that from God's perspective there is no Tzimzum. So therefore there is no Tzimzum Gabe the Makabel. But if by the Mashpia there is a Tzimzum, so therefore there has to be a Hester by the Makabel. And that since that there is no Hester by the Mashpia, ain't there Hester Legabe. So therefore there can't be a Hester by the Makabel. Rak a Hefresh bein Bechinas or Yashar, the Or Chayzer canal. So again, we said the Or Yashar is the idea of getting it straight, which is the from the panimi to the outside, from the inside out. So there, from God's perspective, He starts off at the point of infinity, and then He's able to create the ideas of physicality and finiteness from there. But from the Or Chayzer, you start off with the ideas of finiteness and build back out to the ideas of infinity. Kim Adarabba Mevim Gale Esor. Because that is bringing and revealing the Or in the Medregas Shalamatim Menu. That's the whole point of the Tzimzum. What does the Tzimzum do? It brings a higher light and allows it to be revealed in the lower place. Now again, if you get lost in the mashal, so you're just stuck without the light. But if you go into the mashal and you come out with the nimshal, so therefore you'll be able to get the nimshal being the higher light, you'll be able to get that higher light in the world of the mashal, which is the lower light. Havaya Atzmo, it was not possible to be existence of the worlds because it has beli gavol. So all the worlds have foundation, they have separation. I am separate to you. The pencils are different to each other. The, everything in the world has what it is and what it isn't. But in the world of infinity, then everything's the same. Everything comes into each other. So if you have the power of infinity, you can't create worlds. Va'al yidei Shem Elokim, it comes out and is revealed the light of Shem Havaya. How does Elokim reveal Yud Kei Vav Kei? Through the worlds that gives them existence, because the existence is because of the Shem Havaya. So Shem Havaya gives existence, and Elokim hides the Havaya in order to give. So the Havaya is Beli Gevul, and Elokim gives Gevul, and therefore you're able to actually create the world. Because though it's written in Bereshis Bara Elokim, it says, so Elokim is creating Hayinu. So don't tell me that that Yud Kei Vav Kei is the only power of creation, because the first pasuk says, "Bereshit bara Elokim." You can see that Elokim is creating Hayinu, that it is given existence through the name of Elokim, but the guf and the etzim of the existence is coming from Havaya Davka. So that Havaya puts like the infinity into the world, and without the idea of Elokim, so therefore there can't be any worlds. So therefore it's the Elokim that is creating the Gevul. So the Yud Kei Vav Kei first puts in the Bal Gevul and the infinity, and comes Elokim and makes the Gevul, and you can't have a world without Gevul. So therefore it's Elokim that is creating. So Yud Kei Vav Kei is the language of Mahave, which is the existence or giving existence. As we said, that all the Pa'ula, it is in the revelation of the Poel Davka. So every action then is an expression of the person, of the creator, sir. And that is the Shem Havaya, and that is the level of revelation. So all the acts is just a revelation of the Poel. So as you see everything in the world, it's a revelation of God, because God is a Poel, and one of the goals in existence is to see the Poel in the Nifal. You see the doer in what's being done. So an example of this would be if you see a football that's thrown by Tom Brady, and you see a football thrown by some kid in school. So by looking at the ball, you should be able to see the difference. You'll see who actually threw it. There should be, I'm guessing there's a difference between how they're throwing it. Now, number one, the ball isn't flying. The ball can't fly. The only way that the ball is in the air is because somebody has put their power into it. And secondly, when you look at the ball, you can see the person behind the throw, the koach that's in it. So just like this world has no existence without God, so therefore by looking at the world, you can see the power of the poel in there. And that really is just you and God, and from God's perspective. And this is the whole thing. From Yud Kei Vav Kei, you are just in infinity right now. And that, from God's perspective, that's how the world is. From my perspective, because of the Elokim, even though I am in infinity with God, which is that the light's in the room, I can't see it. So from my perspective, I can't see it. So therefore, I feel separate to God. So therefore, when I'm seeing the world around me, the whole existence, it is the infinity. So I see a rock, it is infinity. And the only reason a rock exists is because the power of God, of Yud Kei Vav Kei, is giving it existence. And therefore, if I can see, again, just like a ball doesn't fly. So when I look at the rock doesn't exist. But I can see the power of God creating in the rock. So through that, I see the nimshal in the moshel, and through that, then I can have God b'chush. I can have the Elokim, and I can have it with the senses, and I can see, feel, touch, and smell. Because there's the level of melech, malach, imloch. Avar havavesid. So as you got the past, you got the present, you got the future. That's the beginnings of dividing up the time from the idea of Elokim. So it should be Elokim malach, Elokim malach, Elokim imloch l'olam va'ed. Because Yud Kei Vav Kei, there's no time. Havai melech u'malach imloch. Because everything is from Hashem Havaya. Because the Elokim, even though Elokim is what kind of creates the time, that all the power of the time, the power of creation is all coming from Yud Kei Vav Kei. And therefore, it's from the name of Havaya through the name of Elokim. So we're going back into the Nimshal. When we say Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, we're going into the Nimshal and not the Mashal, which is Elokim. And that is what the Shem Havaya is Nimshach Me'er B'chol Ha'olam. So therefore, that the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei is in the whole world and in every Nivra to give it existence. And therefore, for Tzimzum Pshuto, so then it's not really Havaya Melech, Havaya Molech, because you can give a different monkey or two what Havaya is talking about, but in the Tzimzum Pshuto, therefore, it's not that the Elokim is a real Hester. So therefore, by saying Hashem Melech, Hashem Molech, you're saying that it's the Yud Vavke that is doing all the creating, that is the power of creation, and then the Elokim is the gives the gevul. It's the harnessing of the power. V'zeu achius ma'asha kol nivra v'nivra margish shehu chai. So that this life force, it's the power of creation coming from God. That's the life force that everyone who feels that they're alive feels, because this life force that's in him is that's the aura of the Shem Havaya that comes through the Shem Elokim. So even though that the physicality, that you have a body, you look at the body, and it just looks like a piece of flesh, but there's a life force in there. People are alive. People feel alive. What's that? So that's the Yud Vavke versus the Elokim. And that if a human tries to build a life form, they're not able to do it. They can't make a fly. You can't make life. But the miracle of medicine, you can fix so much about the body and the physical attributes of the body. So the science can kind of work with the Elokim, but it can't really touch the Havaya. But people still feel alive. So where is this life coming from? That's the Yud Vavke that's coming into the Elokim. Because the Hachiyah Shaboy, Hu Ha'or, because it's life as the Or Hashem Havaya Shenimshach through the name of Elokim. And just like the Mashpia, the Makabel, as we've said above, that's the Or of the Seichel of the Makabel, Miyashiv, Makabel, that also that he is after the Tzimzum, and the Helem Atzmos Or Mashpia Vel Achar Shenetlavish B'Meshalim. So that the light of the Seichel of the Mashpia that is received and is understood by the Makabel, even though the Seichel of the Mashpia is put into Meshalim and has been restricted in Komakom, that is the Or of the Seichel of the Mashpia that is given light and is understood inside of the Makabel. So as the Mashpia comes into Meshalim, so again the Mashpia is like the idea of Yud Vavke, then the Moshel is the Tzimzum, and then the Makabel understands the Moshel. So the Makabel gets the Tzimzum's light, but it's inside the Makabel. So now he has that Or, and he has that Chochmah, and he has the Moshel. So now through that Moshel, he's able to work himself back to the Nimshol, and that Nimshol is the Yud Vavke. So it's really the Yud Vavke that's powering the whole of the Bhagavad world. Okay, and the Or and the light that is in every creation, that it is lighting inside of him to give him light. That is the Or of the Shem Havaya that is drawn out through to the Shem of Elokim and gives light and goes in every creation. So the brackets here explaining why I don't feel like I'm infinite. They also have, and also the level of hiddenness, and that is why the creation doesn't feel that he is Chiyas Eloki, doesn't feel like he's divine. Aval be'emes ein ze hester amiti. Even though you don't feel like your God, it's not like God's hiding himself, because in emes he is hu Chiyas amiti, he is divine. Sharei be'emes hu Chiyas Eloki. Put this up on your wall when you get up in the morning, because in truth you are divine, and man is able to feel this when he gives his mind on that. And this is really the end of the brackets. There's no second bracket. The Nimsa, and we'll find that the Hester of the Shem Elokim isn't a Hester at all, but rather it is coming to reveal the light in the lower levels. Again, you have to have a lower light in order to have that light in the lower levels. The sun has to be a distance away in order that we'll be able to see, because even though the sun is the source of our light, if you put the sun closer to the earth, it'll be too powerful, we won't be able to see anything. And that's all by the Nevrim and the Baal Gavol, that they aren't in the levels of the Or of Hashem Havaya, and it will lighten them also the Or of Havaya we said above. And just like as we explained above, the Moshel, the Mashpia, and the Makabel is able to come also to the depths of the Penimius and the Atzmos of the Chachma of the Mashpia and the Rav, and that is that after 40 years, then he will be Kaim, he will be standing on the Das of his Rav. He'll be able to work himself back into the Nimshal and understand the Nimshal after 40 years of looking into it. Kmokein Yuvan will understand that the Nimshal is also the Be'emes Yuchol Kol Echad Ve'echad Lavo Lebechinas Gilo Ir Penimius Ve'atzmus or itself. So therefore, just like if you get a mashal, you can get back to the nimshal. So to hear that if you get Elokim, you can get back to Havaya, and everyone's able to do this. The audience of the Shem Havaya, that it is a light in revelation in his nefesh, so that you feel that and you know it, and you're able to access it through Elokim. And that is through the avoidasa b'yegias nefesh b'yegias basar. So through your avoidus Hashem with effort, with physical effort, which is the Yigiyas Basar, or Yigiyas Nefesh, is straining and your stress and your emotional strain and effort to remove the hiddenness and the levels of Hester and the Harei Hu Ba'ale B'chinas Giloi Penimius, and that's through his avodas in Hashem, working in the world and seeing God in the world. He'll be able to reach the bechinas of the revelation of the internals, the atzmas or insof, what is above the levels of the chitzonius. That is nasim makor le'olamus. That is the roots of all the worlds. So again, in a dating situation, if you have a girl that you're attracted to, so that's the or chitzoni, and then it will take you 40 years before you know who that person is, so you get a revelation of who that person is. And again, at the beginning, you can start off with the chitzoni. The chitzoni is only an invitation into the panimi. And as you're attracted to the chitzoni, if you just stay on the level of the chitzoni, so therefore you're wasting your marriage time and you're not going to find out anything about that person. And since the kli of marriage is not about the chitzoni, it's about the panimi, so therefore you'll be unhappy in your marriage. And just like if you're looking for the chitzoni in this world, so therefore you'll be unhappy in your life. But the point of the chitzoni of this world is in order as an invitation into the panimi, in order that you can get that revelation of the panimi, so again, given a mashal. If you just read Animal Farm and it just stays as a story about pigs for your whole life, so you've missed everything. The whole point of the story is in order that you can understand communism and the problems with communism even on a simple level, so people today don't read it or they don't know that there's a nimshal, and they run around the streets saying, I'm a communist. We all love communism, while they're using the money that capitalism has given them. They don't understand, or they're not interested in it, and therefore they're perpetually unhappy, because the point of the chitzoni is to bring you into the panimi. So now we're moving on to another level, another point of the be'ir ha'inyan. Tzarich lahaktim techilas inyan ha'nisuyos. So what is a test? To understand this idea of working through Elokim and reaching Havaya, because we want to have a plan for how we're going to interact with Havaya, how we're going to interact with the panemius of existence. So through that, we'll understand through what a test is. And who mashagos of kiminasa Havaya Elokim eschen, that God is testing this. So it says by the man. Shemnasa says Adam, they will test man if he will stand in the tests. And we have to understand, what is the kavanah? Eliona, what does God care if you can pass a test or not? Because in the test, God knows if you're going to pass it or not. So what's God testing people for? And in a different place, we explain that all the tachlis of the Yeridus of neshama b'gof. What's the whole point of the neshama coming down into this gof? Because the neshama, before it comes here, is dancing around Gan Eden, and therefore the point is to go to Gan Eden. Well, you were just there, so therefore don't bother coming down here, because coming down into the gof is such a huge Yerida Gedoyla that you are basking in the light of God, and you come down here, and I don't see God anywhere. Because I got lost in the marshal. The hooray, kaidem yiris will go faisa umerespel, or oilem elyon, ganenis atachton, or ganenis elyon, kiyadua, me'inyan me'ain basa. So where did you come from? What's the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos? So before you come here, that you're in Gan Eden. So why did you bother coming down here? And that while you're in Gan Eden, you had the hasaga, you understood the elokis, and then such levels of ahava the yira, and on the levels of bittul, belokis. So you're just basking in a battle into God, and as it's written, Chai Hashem Hashem Adati Lifanav, the Amida Lamala. This is I stood before God, and there is no standing in Gan Eden, because there's no guf. That's the chinus of bittul. Why is it standing before God? It's bittul, as we've explained elsewhere. You read a beseser, and that you've come down into this hiddenness, the madregas of this world, that it is very far from the light of God, and you don't feel Elokis like you feel it above. So here she doesn't say you don't feel Elokos down here. He just says you don't feel Elokis like you would feel it when you're in Gan Eden. So see, you have people who feel God down here, and they're living in Bechush. You have it in your senses. You go into the mashal, and then you interact with God. It's just the level of revelation of Elokus is not like it is in Gan Eden. Because the Harei or Eloki Kamosh Meir Ba'olamos Tachtonim Hu Betachlis Tzimzum Ve'elom Bechinas Ora the Oris Chitzonis Levad. Why don't we feel it here like we feel it up there? Is because that the way that the light is lighting in the lower worlds, it is mitzamsem. And therefore it's only ara of the Chetzonis Levad. It's not the Or Panimi. Whereas you go into Gan Eden, you're closer to the Or Panimi, but here we're on such a far level, we're on like the lowest level of Or is coming out here. Vaf Gamzos Bab ha Gashma. So that even though it comes down here in this level of Geshem, of physicality, the Hayinu Hagasha Mugosha, that it's this level of understanding in Seichel. The Eino Be'erach Klal, the understanding the ruchnis of the light of Elokim that you understand in the Olam HaElyon. So therefore you have even your understanding, even if you get God here, you're getting God in a Gashmias level. Whereas in Gan Eden, you're understanding God like with the neshama outside the guf. So just like we said before, that the neshama has a thing called vision, and then it goes into the guf, and then we define vision by eyeballs. Whatever eyeballs are able to see, that's called what we can see. Whatever eyeballs can't see, that's not called vision. So when the neshama comes out of the guf, so therefore the whole vision, the whole idea of vision is completely different to when the neshama is in the guf. And so too by seichel, so too by understanding, when the neshama comes into the guf, therefore the brain has a level of understanding of things that's completely different when the neshama is outside the guf. So therefore, when the neshama is dancing around Gan Eden, so therefore his understanding of God is just on a quantum difference to how people understand stuff in this world, because it's a Geshem type of understanding as opposed to a Ruchni type of understanding. The difference of the two things. So the Or Eloki is giving light. There it is stronger. It as an Or Elyon Yoter, it's shining brighter up there, and it doesn't come to this physicality only in the level of Ruchnius, and therefore they have a Vayira, Ba'alo is not in the same level of the Havayira that they had, but above. So even if you're having a Havayira in God down here in this world, it's not on the same level, it's not on the same Madrega as up there, because there it doesn't come into the Gashmis, and it's burning brighter, it's a stronger thing. I can see, if I don't have eyes, I can see much more of the sun. I may not understand what that means, but there's a level of vision, there's a level of seeing. It's like the story of Odin, that he had to lose an eye in order to see more. Go look it up, but there's a ability to see, and there's an ability of eyeballs. Now, a second point, that you've come down to be in the hiddenness here. This is the second reason why it's a big Yerida. Again, the first one that we've gone from the Ruchni Seichel of God to the Gashmi Seichel of God. And also here we have the Hester Panim. And this is the Hesters and the worlds that is all Baal Gavol. And it hides the light of Hashem and His holiness. And it has to, you need Egia Harbe. You need a lot of work until you come to the light of Eloki. So if you're in Gan Eden, you don't need to work hard to get the light of God. Right, all this, what's the whole point? All this, it's a Yerida Gedolim Ma'od, again, the 2 points. So what's the point of all this? Of coming down is before Nisoyus, is to be tested. So this is a bit of a chiddush, that the whole point of coming down is to be tested. Because the tests that come to man when they are the bechinas of Hester Panim. Because any test in which somebody has, then it's the level of Hester. It's like God's not there. So if someone wins the lottery, he feels good about himself, he feels good about God. When things are going well, oh yeah, I love God and God loves me and everything is fantastic. But when things go bad, so then now there's a Hester upon him, is that the world is not working the way that I want it to work, is that I have an idea of how the world should work, and God has an idea of how the world should work, and God is running the world according to him and not according to me. So from my perspective, it looks like, well, God's not here, because obviously God would agree to me how to run the world. So when someone is tested, so therefore you're facing a Hester upon him, you're facing the darkness, you're facing the abyss. And just like in the Histalkus of the Chias HaShefa, Menias Brias Agov, or Menias moment. So if you have a Hester upon him, so that you could have a sickness. So it'll be refrain from the health of the guf, or mania, something's preventing the flow of the hashpah from God into the moment, in order to hastir on the light and the life of Hashem and His holiness, and to be preventing from outside michut mi baisim michut, inside and outside, internal, and you have external. So you can have the external will be, so somebody, let's say he owes money, so internally he's fine, he just owes somebody money, and then internal can be something and like an emotional challenge or health issues. So somebody who comes to lehiskarev la Hashem so that he comes to God and to come close to God in His service and tefillah and Torah, and when he stands in the Nisayan against everything that is being preventing him from getting close to God and is stopping him, that's the tachlis of the Yeridus of the neshama. That's the whole point of coming down here, that when you have something that you're trying to get close to God, and there's something that's preventing you from getting close to God, that when you're able to break through that prevention and find God on the other side, that's the whole point of you coming out of Gan Eden and coming down here into this physical world. So the whole point of this world is abyss and darkness, which we'll see. Because through facing the darkness and coming out the other side, you'll get to revelation of or Elyon Yod. You will see a much higher level of God. And you have to understand how through this davka you will come to the higher level of revelation of Yokevavke. But this is what it is, because the union of testing is the hidingness, the hiddenness and hiding over that is removing and hiding on emes. So that when you see Hester, you see a test, therefore it's the emes that is being hidden. And there's a lot of sheker around, but the bigger sheker is the test. So every time that you see sheker in the world, it's hiding on the emes. Because if it was known, the emes, as it is, it wouldn't be a test at all. Because if you knew what the truth was, so then this wouldn't be a test. But the whole point of a test is that we're hiding what's true, and through this hiding that you're standing in the nisayin, therefore you will come, as you go through the test, you come into the truth on the other side. That it's the sheker that's creating the darkness, and therefore going through the sheker, coming out on the other side, you'll find the emes. And just like so we have this example of the test of Abraham and Ur Kasdim, that they threw him into the pit of fire, and he didn't know that he wouldn't be burned. Because what happens when you go into a pit of fire? You get burned. So Pashtus is that Abraham, Peshuto, you go into a pit, you get burned. Because if he had known that he wouldn't be burned, he wouldn't be in a Nisayin Klal. So there's a list of 10 tests of Abraham. This is in the list of the tests. So what's the test? You go into walking into a room and not getting burned, and walking into a fire not getting burned. If he knew he wasn't going to get burned, so there's no test. But Abraham thought that he will get burned, because the world is telling him that you will get burned, but that's not the emes. He didn't know this. Because nature, what is nature? That's what fire does. Fire burns. But gematria Elokim. It's known that nature is the gematria of Elokim. That's what's the point of gematria. It says that things that have the same gematria are coming from the same source, and they're deeply connected. So therefore, Elokim and nature are deeply connected. So all the nature, all nature in the world is just the levusha and the hiddenness of God. So as you look at nature, and the sun rises in the morning and it sets in the evening, and then you have spring, summer, that's the nature that's hiding Elokim. Now again, if I tell you that this mashal is for a nimshal, so therefore you're looking for the nimshal. But if you don't even know that the mashal is a nimshal, so therefore you have that Elokim is the mashal for the nimshal, and the nature will be it's not even a mashal. So through this, you'll have all the division and the definition that the Aish will burn and water will put out fire. So that's the Tava and the Levisha of Elokim. Elokim comes into the world and creates the nature, and therefore in the Levisha of Elokim, fire burns. Because that is the nature of heat, and that is the nature of Kar. That's what water does, and that's what fire does. Aval, Mitzad Shem Havaya. But in the Havaya, in the world of infinity, there's no such thing as fire burning. Because fire can put out just as much as water can burn. because in the world of infinity, everything is everything. There is no restriction. So to say the fire can only burn, that's the world of restriction. That's the world of Elokim. That's the world of Teva. And Shem Bechina Hagbala V'Heschalkus the Mayim Ve'Eish Klal, and therefore there's no Hagbala and there's no division. So again, the world of Hischalkus, that things are different. When you're in the world of Echad, you're in the world of infinity. So then there is no Hischalkus, there's no division. Therefore, Mayim and Eish is all the same thing. And it's able to be that the Mayim will not put out fire, and the fire will not burn. Just like Misha Amor L'Shem and V'Yadlak V'Yamar Lachamot V'Yadlik. So this is the Gemara of Rabbi China ben Doisa. His daughter had put in the vinegar instead of the oil, so he said mi shamar. So obviously that shemen will burn and vinegar doesn't. That's all in the world of Elokim, in the world of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So mi shamar, we're coming to the source. You got to go back into the source of the world, because in the source of the world, that's what coming from the koyach Yud Kei Vav Kei. In the source, then you have infinity. Once it's already down in the Levishan and in the Teva, therefore, for sure, fire burns, and for sure, oil burns, and vinegar doesn't. But the Misha Amar is going back into the source of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, in that infinity. There's no difference, and therefore it has them. So you can't just start burning vinegar. That's not how it works. You got to go back into the Yud Kei Vav Kei and bring out the Yud Kei Vav Kei in the vinegar. Then you can burn. But if you don't bring the Yud Kei Vav Kei into the vinegar, so if vinegar is not going to burn you, idiots. So come on, Mayim and Eish, that they don't put at each other, and as Arizal said through the Mashal, the Pachadimo, also Shalom Bim Romav, that he makes peace in the heights. What does it mean to make peace in the heights? The Michael is the angel of water, and Gabriel is the angel of Eish, and they don't put at each other. So in the higher places, Bim Romav, in the places of Yud Kei Vav Kei, so there you have that Michael and Gabriel can live together. Why can they live together? Because in Yud Kei Vav Kei there's no Hischalkus. That fire doesn't have to be put out by water, or vice versa. So therefore he Oiseh Shalom Bim Ramav, that he's making peace so they can coexist. And sometimes the Eish burns the Mayim, just like in Elokim, and all this is above nature. So you have a miracle which is beyond nature miracles. And in Bechinas or Ein Sof, without Gavul, because they don't have Hagbalas Hateva Klal. Because when you're in the state of no Gavul, you can't then start saying that nature exists, because the nature is how things act. But when that's all Gavul, nature is Gavul. Therefore, when you're in Bal Gavul, therefore you can't have a definition of nature. He also Bechinas Bilti Bal Gavul. However, the Hag of the world is through Hagbalas to Shem Elokim. How does the world act? That's through the Hagbala. That's through the definitions and the limitations of the Shem Elokim. So therefore fire burns in Elokim, and it can do whatever it wants in Yud Kei Vav Kei. Even though the Havaya is what's giving existence to it, is a koyach, it's the power that is fueling this existence. Because all existence is through the revelation of the koyach HaPoyel, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, as it's written, Havaya Melech, as we've explained before, at length, Mikol Makom, is through the Or Havaya Kamor Sheme'ir Al Yedei Shem Elokim. It's not unadulterated light of Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's the light of Yud Kei Vav Kei as it's meluvash in Elokim, in the level of Helam Hester, that it's hidden, so it's taken down a Madrega. It's or many Madregas. It's not shining at its full power, but it has the lavishes, and therefore comes out in a way of Gavul. So it comes into the level of Gavul. And this is the whole system of nature. Shemayim puts out and fire burns. And behold, so Abraham didn't think. So why would Abraham think that he would be outside of Teva, be outside of Gavul? He's living in a Baal Gavul world. So therefore gets thrown into the pit of fire, burn. This is how the Pashas is if someone goes into a fire. Nevertheless, the Amad bin Nisoyin, because he stood in his test, that he was not separate from God, even though he had all these things that are trying to prevent him from being Davuk to Hashem. And they're telling him to get away from God. They're telling him God's not going to help you. They're telling him that God doesn't exist. So you have like Nimrod and the people like him, they want to burn him. So he has a choice there, that he can either give in to the Teva and give into what everyone's saying, or you can be stuck to Elokim. So what's the emes and what's the sheker? The hein hein ha'olemus v'hasterim shemitzad hagas ha'olam kanal. And these are the helem is to hide, and hester is to hide, because from the side of that's how the hanhagas ha'olam is. So when you have the Elokim is in the world and it looks like there is no God, are you still going to be dovak in Hashem? Lo niza ziz kolshke chas v'chalila. So Avram didn't budge an inch, chas v'chalila, and he stood against everything that was trying to prevent him and all the hiddenness, and he went to be burnt in the Kevshana Eish. So in his decision, he did not want to be separated from God whatsoever, and therefore he went into the pit. So the Pashtus is that he said, "Go bow down to the Avodah Zarah, or we will throw you into the pit." And again, this happened also in the time of Daniel, which is before the story of Purim, which is where all the Jews in the time of Nebuchadnezzar were told that bow down to the Avodah Zarah or get thrown into the pit. So that the world is trying to tell you that you should be separate from God, and that here is the darkness, and do Avodah Zarah instead. And by also Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah all went into the furnace in the book there, and they all came out alive. In the Gemara in Megillah says, if only all the Jews would have done it, then we would have had the Mashiach, but they didn't. But this was the test. We were saying that, no, just bow down to the Avodah Zarah or we'll kill you. So the Jews bowed down to Avodah Zarah, but anyone who went into the furnace, so then they came out the other side, which we'll see why. So Avram did not want to be separated chas v'chalila from Elokus, and obviously if he's to bow down to the Avodah Zarah, then he would be. So the Hesser is telling him, your best bet is to bow down to the Avodah Zarah. And Abraham didn't want to be separate from God, so rather than give into the Hester, he went into the pit to be burned. And because he went into the pit to be burned, lo neis v'nitzel. So standing through the test, he was able to touch Yud Kei Vav Kei. And since he touched Yud Kei Vav Kei, now the properties of fire changes. Since he was able to stand the test of the Heser's Levushe Ateva, that he can see through the clothes that are hiding Yud Kei Vav Kei in the world, that he sees the Pale in the Nifal, that he looks at a rock and sees God, he looks at a Avodah Zarah and sees the Isser in it, and the idea of bowing down to it is the Isser of Yud Kei Vav Kei Vehem ha-levushos v'asterim shemitzad Shem Elokim. Again, that part of the reason why people were so into Avodah Zarah, especially the time of the first temple, was because the Elokus that was coming out of the Kodesh Kedoshim in the time of the first temple was saturating Gashmia. So you look at a rock and you just see God. So people are bowing down to these things. And today we look at a rock and see a rock. So we're like, oh, don't be so stupid, bowing down to Avodah Zarah. And the problem with Avodah Zarah is that you're bowing down to the Elokim and not the Yod Kei Vav Kei. So that they're just the Levushim and the Hestarim, because that's all coming from Elokim. The Hayir Lo B'Bechinas Gilo Yerin Sof Vilti Gavol. So therefore, since he Amar Nisian, and he removed the Levushia Teva, and therefore he looked past the Elokim, and therefore he got the light of Enokim Bilti Bal Gavol. So therefore, in the place of infinity, there is no Gavol, there is no ends, there is no divisions. And so from the Ein Sof, without Gavol, then the H doesn't have to burn at all. It doesn't have to. It can do whatever it wants. Because it's not in the state of Gavol. And if we see by Haran, who went into the fire afterwards, he just got burned. Because he wasn't touching Yud Kei Vav Kei. The reason that Abraham came out, because he stood the Nisoyan. Haran did not do it because he was passing through Elokim into Yud Kei Vav Kei. He did it because he was following what Abraham did. So when it's at Orin Sof, then it doesn't have to burn because it's above. And as we said, above them, just like the Eish if that's only through Hagabala, because it has the Lavush, it has the clothing of nature, but from Orin Sof itself, without Gavol, and the Eish doesn't have to sorry. So it starts off, so Eish is a state of infinity, and as it comes down into the Levisha of Elokim, therefore it burns, and it's extremely dangerous. But that's only as it goes into the Levisha of Elokim, and therefore by the Nisoyan. What is the Nisoyan? The test is facing Elokim, and come in at the other side, and therefore you get a revelation of a higher light, which is you have to divest the Elokim of its levisha, of its clothing, and therefore see the nimshal in the mashal, and therefore you'll never want to be separate from God at any point in time. And therefore, when you're staring into the darkness, knowing that there's actually light here, and this darkness is just a revelation of the light. So therefore, you will then be able to see and get a revelation of the higher light on the other side, because there is no Geder and Hakabala Klal in the Orin Sof, and therefore that's why Abraham was saved from the fire, because the fire only burns in Elokim, and it can do whatever it wants in Yom Kivavke. And that comes to revelation, the Chinas Orin Sof, without Bavol, they heard Davka Ledesh Amad Benusin as well, because he studied in the test. Because if he didn't do this, then the Hanhagada Ba'olam, through the revelation of Shem Havaya that comes through Shem Elokim. So without going through the test, without breaking through to the other side, therefore the world acts in Elokim, in Yud going through Elokim. And therefore you're facing Elokim all the time. And in Elokim, the fire burns. Because you don't break through the Elokim. You don't have to divest the Elokim of its Levisha. But Abraham was put into this test where, well, if you don't divest Elokim of its Levisha, you're going to die. Because if you don't bow down to the Avodah Zarah, so therefore we're going to throw you into the fire. But because he didn't bow down to the Avodah Zarah, he says, no, that this is the Ratzon of Hashem, is that I dive down the fire, Yargri al Yavor. And therefore there he's able to get the light of Yud Kevavke. Because that's the Bechinas, the Orach, Itzonis Levad, that's the Elokim. Misham Havaya, as we've explained above, and in order that he will come to the revelation Amitis of the Shem Havaya. So again, Abraham got that revelation of Yud Kevavke here in this world. Why? Because the world's creation is just to reveal Yud Kevavke. And therefore, all the tests and everything, what you're doing here, just to get that revelation of Yud Kevavke. That's what you're here for, to get Yud Kevavke. And you can have Yud Kevavke, not just Elokim. Habilti Bagavol. Just like it's above. Mishem Elokim. Zehu, it's through Nesuin Stavka, it's through the test. Because how he stood in the test against the Hagbala and the restriction from the worlds and the hiddenness of the Shem Elokim, of how Shem Elokim is the Levisha. Then he comes to the revelation of Ein Sof without Gavul, that is beyond Gavul of nature. And we've already explained above that if was a revelation of Hashem Havai without Gavul, as it is Shelo Alidei Shem Elokim at all, then the worlds wouldn't be able to makabel this at all. So again, this is any worlds, no worlds, not even the Gan Eden Lamala or things like that. No worlds are able to makabel this. So therefore, Abraham was able to have an experience of Yud Kevavke that is not accessible anywhere else, not in existence, but in the potential's existence in any creation. So therefore, Abraham came down here from Gan Eden in order to get a revelation of Yud Kevavke that was beyond anywhere else in existence, that was beyond what he could achieve in Gan Eden. Ahinu, that is, Shlo, there's the existence of the Yesh of Gavol Kiim, Tzarkli Yostechila, Levesh Hashem Havai B'Shem Elokim. So you can't have any existence of any Metzias, of anything that's a Yesh. Again, Yesh is a separate being, and Gavol, and the only reason I'm separate to you is because, again, the Ikr of the Yesh is separate to God. And the Gavol, and I have boundaries, I go this far, and you go that far. So that the whole existence of creation, that's everything in this physical world, has to be with the Levisha of Havai in the Shem Elokim. And that's the Bechinas of the shining of the Chitzoni, Mishem Havaya, as explained up to this point. And then, Davka, you're able to come to the revelation of the Benimia. So going through, you have to first go through the Chitzoni. Because if the Yud Kevavke comes in here, then you just move out all the world. So therefore, you get the outside light. That's the Mashal. Now you can digest the mashal and then come in the nimshal. And you have the min nimshal, you have the panemia. So even though if you just get everything, you get nothing, this manner you can get everything. Because first you get the mashal, then you can get the nimshal. If you just get the nimshal, you get nothing. So you have this, so you can get to the revelation of the panemia, so that you're in the Gan Eden, and then you still can't get the panemias in Gan Eden, because the panemias will wipe you out. So therefore you come down from Gan Eden to this world in order to get the panemias, and this huge Yerida. And how do you get the panemias? By going through the Levisha of Elokim, which is at its highest and its worst at the time of a test, because at the test it looks like there's no God in the world. So there, when you see through the other side, you'll get to Elokim, you get to Yud Kevavke, and then you get this revelation of the panemias, the atzmos of Shem Havaya, that has no gavul. And again, you do this through Nisayin, and therefore Abraham reached a level of where the fire was coming. The fire is coming through Elokim, the Levisha of Yudkevavke into Elokim. Once he divested the fire of the Levisha of Elokim, now he's in a fire of Yudkevavke, which is the source of the fire. And therefore, he's not getting burnt. Again, it's not an idea of God can do everything, and therefore I can burn my vinegar. It's that Elokim, the vinegar doesn't burn. You have to divest of the Elokim. You can't just do it by saying it. You have to go through, face the darkness, and come out the other side. So just through the test of Abraham, he comes to the revelation of this higher level, this infinity that has no gavul. So too, it's according to the level of every test, and test of a man will stand keneged the levushei hateva, because every test is just a hester of God, which is the Shem Elokim. And as they come through the levushei hateva, so it's Elokim is the levushei hateva, it's trying to hide the Yud Vavke in the Hanhagas Olam, that you see the way that the world works, that it is a world of hiddenness that are preventing you and try to stop you from doing your Torah and Avodah. And it is standing against anything, and as you stand against anything that prevents you to not be separate from God, chas v'chalila, and you be Isaac and Torah anyway, and in your avodah, everyone according to his own level, then he'll come through this to a revelation of Or Elyon Shalmalam in Tava. So this is how you touch Yud Kevavke. This is how you can experience Yud Kevavke. That when you have something that's preventing you from having a relationship with God, that you break through to the other side, and then you'll have not the same. You're not then having a relationship with God. You have a relationship with a higher level of God. And you can stick with the chitzoni. You can say, "Oh, my wife is super hot," or you can have a relationship with her, and through that you'll have a much deeper relationship. You're not having a relationship with the girl that you're attracted to. You're having a relationship with the panemius of that person, and it's a much deeper and higher revelation of that person and what they look like. The alzeh. This is why the neshama came down so low and to come into a physical body and into hiddenness of physicality, which has gavul, and it runs by the worlds of nature. And it's near of a nidnilo, and it appears to him through the chitzonius of the way that the world works, that he needs to act himself this way, davka. Just like if he's working, masav matzon. So while he's doing trade, it seems, but not sure that he needs to get up early and to stay in his work long, and to be all the day in the work. And this is the simple way of how to make lots of money, is to get a job in Goldman Sachs and work lots of hours. And I have to get there earlier than everyone else and have to leave everyone else. And even if you want to point to today ideas of making it rich on TikTok or whatever they're doing, most people who try that are not going to be successful. Whereas most people who put in 15, 20 hours a day at Goldman Sachs do get lots of money. So it seems to me, by the level of the world, if I look at the world, I will do much better becoming a dentist or a doctor rather than buying lottery tickets, even though I can make lots of money in the lottery tickets. The thing that makes sense in this teva, the teva of the world, is that this is how you make lots of money, and this is how you're able to put kosher food on your table and have kids in today's world. That's how it looks like. If you take any time for yourself, to daven, to learn Torah, so you'll yasvid b'zeh, especially if you're working chutz la'aretz, and the guy beside you doesn't need to take off. How long is mincha? It could be from 5 minutes you take off to an hour you take off. Whatever you're doing, your guy beside you, he isn't taking that time off. He's not taking those 5 minutes off. He's not taking the weekend off. He works all day Saturday while you keep Shabbos. So seemingly, I'm the boss. I'm gonna promote the guys there on Saturday, not the guys keeping Shabbos. So therefore, you're gonna lose if you keep Torah. It appears to the person in the world that he needs to do tachbolos. He needs to come up with ways and ideas and tricks, different tricks in what he's doing in the work. He can't just go out, buy 30 Mars bars, put a markup up, and sell them individually. He has to have a trick. He has to have a connect. He always got to, try to trick someone into put some small print in, or add some stuff here, or take away there. If I work according to the laws of truth, I'm gonna lose out. So, I look at him. It's just not gonna work, because if he goes up here MS, it won't. He won't profit, or even worse, he'll lose. Because all the way that the world works is going against this. But if you go through all this, it's just not true. Look past all your excuses as to why you're doing this or why you're not doing this. Go past that. And the reason you're making up reasons why you're doing something or not doing something is because you know deep down that you should or shouldn't be doing it. Otherwise, you don't need an excuse. So once you're making excuses, you need to look past them and understand that the emes isn't true. That this is your nisayon, that you're facing Elokim in the levisha, and you can get past it and come out the other side with Yud Vavke. The etzem hanhagas oilam. That the whole world that is running, it's not against doing, taking your time, learning Torah, and doing Avodas Hashem to go in the way of truth. There's nothing in this world that will prevent you from going in the ways of truth. It's just that it's the Elokim it's the Yud Vavke in the Levisha of Elokim. You have the Teva and you have the Nisayon that's making it look like if I go up Pia Emes, it ain't gonna work. And as we said above, that all the levushos and the hiddenness, it doesn't hide at all in truth. But the tachlis of the kavana is that shiyamo neged kol monea, that things are trying to stop you having a emistical life, and everything is trying to stop you, and everything that's preventing you, and then stopping you davening properly and doing Torah every day according to the kaviyas that he'll make himself. So whatever your kaviyas zman in Torah is, everyone according to their level. There are other things in the world that look like they're trying to stop you doing it, but it's not. But midrash sheker, you're chok. So Torah says, separate yourself from something that's sheker. And midrash sheker, you're chok. It looks like if you look in the world, you really have to. You gotta bend the truth a couple of times. Otherwise, you ain't gonna make any money. You can use here mitachvolos, and therefore, the truth is, stay away from sheker, and don't do any tricks in business. Just because everyone else is doing them, that's your nisoyim. But yelech betom ube'emes, go in tamimus, perfection and truth, and you will not have any nidnud isur be'esko. You will not have any type or any smell, any emotion of isur in your work. Masav matan. That's the way to go, and it's your test. It's whether you're going to do that or not. Is Elokim, the darkness, true? Or is Yud Vavke true? And through this, that you will stand in the Nisayon, in all these things, you will come to revelation of the higher light that's above Teva, and through the Alpi Pashud, who's the Atzmo Sheroye Beninav Shagam, Schang Alpi Torah. So it seems simple to him, in his eyes, that when he goes through the ways of the Torah and the mitzvahs, and he's doing it for it, that it's not Alpi Chitzonis Hanhagas Ha'olam. This isn't going to work according to how the world appears to me, because if I take a few hours a day learning Torah, I'm just not going to make it in the business. That's how it appears in the world. He's not going to lose anything in this, because the whole point of that, it looks like he's losing, is only the nisayon. That is the nisayon that it appears. You have to break through that. So it could be even that. So I'm getting paid $100 an hour, and if I do 5 hours, I get $500. If I reduce it to 4 hours, I should still get $500 because God is running the world, and the fact that I'm spending an extra hour learning Torah, it should make no difference to the parnasa. But yet, a guy can look at his bank account and see he's only got 400, but the other things are coming into it, like disposable income, or he doesn't have expenses in this, or if he does the 500, he has to pay for other stuff. You have the one of the creators of Google. He has a high chance of Parkinson's, I think it is, and he's put like half his money into Parkinson's. And one of the guys in PayPal, one of his kids has issues with diabetes, and he's put a ton of money into diabetes. I'm sure they have lots left, but there's a difference between my disposable income and my income. And by doing these things, even if you see your bank balance go down, that's all part of the test to think that you can make a difference. Not just will he not lose anything, by going this way, he will get the light. It will be shown to him, and he will feel in his nefesh the revelation of Or Elyon Yoter. He's not going to be dealing with Elokis anymore. He'll be dealing with the level of Yud Vavke. And all the hashpot of Kabbalas Chiyoso, and all what he's getting and his life force and is a revelation of Or Lekish Lamalami or Tzimzum. So therefore he'll be touching that's what's above Tzimzum in the Hanhagas Ha'olam. So again, people who are getting this light, people who don't get that light, look at it and say, what the hell are you doing? But once you're touching this light, so therefore your whole existence is on a completely different level. If he erach avodah according to the value of his work and the however much that he is working on this, again, he is basar, he is nefesh, and sometimes the emotional work is much harder. Rehu oila, he goes the mala mala in Eloi achar Eloi, he goes up and up and up and up, and that is the inyan of tests. What it's written, because God tested you to see. The tachlis of the kavana is in order that you will come to the revelation of Ein Sof that's above nature, and just like in the Nesoyin of Abraham. So therefore, you too, just like Abraham touched Yud Kevavke, you can too. So Hayitzalanu Mikola now. So this is a kind of summary of what I would call the first part of this mamar. Is that it comes out from all this we said, that this is the avodas of Adam to give one liyachid, to make one out of Elokim. And the mashal is the nimshal. It's not that you have a mashal and then you have a separate. That's not a nimshal. It's just separate. You got Elokim, which is Tava, and you got Yod Vavke, which is infinity. No, that you have this. You know that the Shem Elokim doesn't hide on Shem Havaya. It's not a hidden again that the Elokim is there to reveal. The Shem Elokim, it is the Atzmos or Ein Sof, just like the Shem Havaya, as we explained at the beginning. The Etzem Eino Master ala Etzem, and therefore that. Again, your hand can't cover your head to say a bracha because, and if I put my hands over my eyes, I'm not hiding myself at all. Because the etzem, the atzmos, itself can't hide itself. And all the existence is coming from Havaya, from the name of Havaya, that's the koyach of all existence. And the Havaya hu mahavekol nivrim, it's giving that it's the power that's giving koyach to all the creation and all the levushim and the worlds and the Shem Elokim, all the levushim and the hiddenness that is coming from Shem Elokim, it doesn't hide really. It's not giving any at all. Ki'im adarabba. Rather, it brings the or lamokim not nomok. It brings the infinite light to a lower place, and that is that through the nivroim, and also that the things that were created that were Baal Gavol will come to them the or havaya. So even though you're physical, you'll get the infinite light to give them existence. And every place that it is drawn down to him, the Shefa, the Or, V'chios, Misham Havaya, so any place where a creation is, you can get this light of Shem Havaya. And therefore you have to focus on the Or of the Lavush. You need to be Dovok, Miyuchud, Ba'or. So focus on the Poil in the Nifal. Don't focus on the rock. Focus on the godly power powering the rock. And the Chios Eloki ha Nishpalo that is coming down to him. That you got the levels of Elokim. As Nishpa is coming down, and he, as the Shefa, coming to him, not on the Levushim and on the hiddenness as they are themselves, rather on the light of the Elokim that is coming through them. And as we'll explain more about this later on. And when this matter, that's the Devekas and the Yichud of Hashem, comes to him through the Nisayon, it comes through the revelation. You get even a higher level of revelation. So if you're naturally just living in the world, so you'll see the Koach HaPol in the Nifal, you'll see God in the rock. But now we have a higher level, just called a test, and through the test, you're not just seeing God in the rock, you're experiencing Yud Vavke, the infinity yourself. You'll have a revelation of a higher light, and that is the Gil of Ein Sof, that's greater than Tava. And that is the point of your existence, of coming down here, because you can enjoy God, you can enjoy Gan Eden without coming here, but here you're going to get something greater than the revelations of Gan Eden. That's the revelations of Yod Vavke, that's the revelations of Baal Gavul, the revelations of infinity, which you can only get here. And how do you do that? Through a test.
Face the darkness, face the abyss, and then when you come out the other side, then there'll be a much greater light, which is not accessible anywhere else except by you facing the abyss.